Check, 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 check. Welcome out, everybody. If we can get everybody to kind of file into their seats. We still got a handful out in the halls, so we may have to kind of make a little room to get everybody to sit. While they're filing in, I'll jump into a few things. I'm Travis Gray with the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining right here out of Price. Thank you guys for being here. Packed house, it's always amazing. We were looking around at like 10 minutes too, and you guys are really good at coming in at the last minute. I'm impressed. That was well done. And I think why is probably, you guys were probably fixing your hair from the rain. That's a problem I didn't fight, so I was here early. So maybe you guys can consider that. Anyway, really, thank you for being here. It's awesome. I think this is some of the biggest numbers that we've had. We've been doing this collaborative for a couple of years, and we're almost to standing room only, so that's exactly where we want to be. I was looking up something real quick with oil prices. They're going so crazy right now. We all know what's going on over on the other side of the world, and it affects everything, obviously. So industry's trying to keep up with this. You see a lot of companies not knowing whether to gear up or to sit back and wait. I sympathize with them. And government's in the same boat of regulation and not knowing what's coming next. So it's uncertain times. Little bit of facts that I looked up that I was interested in. When you think about a barrel of oil, and I thought, well, how many barrels of oil does a person use in a year? However you want to look at that, fuel in your car or whatever that may be, you know. So my good friend Google explains that an average person in the United States of America will use 22 to 23 barrels of oil a year, which calculates to about 908 gallons, which is roughly 2.5 gallons of oil a day. When you compare us to the rest of the world, we are significantly higher. The global average is 5 barrels a day. We're about 4 times that amount per person of oil used in your daily lives. My point of all that is, obviously, it's extremely important to everybody. So we keep an eye on those prices. We definitely see it at the pump, but the long story short, the United States consumes a whole bunch of this oil. So luckily, we're here producing it, obviously. Little bit of numbers with what's been going on with production around the state. When you look at, sorry, it's up for me, but now it's up for you. APDs, approved drilling permits. Orland Wallace and his group handles all these with the division, and they've been extremely busy to say the least. You can see it right there at the top, 444, and then it climbed to 576, and then an estimated 600 this year. Them are approved drilling permits. Now the next line there is spuds, where they're actually drilling. Sometimes they'll obtain a permit and not actually drill it, so you can get a little bit confused in those numbers. Nonetheless, it's trending up like it does. The rig count, when we move forward to drill and rig count, and you can see it for yourself, but 2023 with 11 rigs, and March of 2026 right here, we're sitting with 17 drilling rigs. So the industry's doing all they can to keep up. There's a lot going on out there with that. That's a lot of man hours. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of work. So sorry if I'm going a little quick. We have a packed agenda today, and I kind of want to get through it as best we can, but I feel like these numbers are extremely important to everybody. So when you look at Utah monthly oil production per month, and this slide cuts off at December of 25, but the point being, you see the continual gain since the COVID years that seem so long ago. However, they were just 5 years ago. There's a significant increase, setting between 5 and 6 million barrels. So it continues to climb, and a lot of that's the horizontal drilling, the production, ability to move it out of the basin, get it transported where we need it. 3 years of record production. Again, you're seeing the numbers for yourself, but 23 at 56 million barrels annually has jumped to the end of 25 at 67. So every year, it just continues to break records, even though you may not think it does, but the numbers see it because we all see those peak years, but usually those peaks are kind of quick. But when you look at the long-term trend, it just continues to climb. Natural gas the same way. Natural gas went on about a decade-long decline leading up to COVID. It was just a steady 15% fall, give or take. Since then, it's turned around. And you're looking at it since COVID, it's climbed back up to roughly the 27 million MCF monthly. Many, many reasons why, but a great point with that is with the horizontal drilling for oil, you still get the natural gas as well. So that plays a big part of that increase in the natural gas. So anyway, good things with the state, and we're trying to keep up. We're doing all we can ourselves, along with other entities, trying to stay on top of this. Really has our hands full with it. So that's kind of all I had with some of the opening numbers. But I do want to thank our partners. We spend so much time with meetings putting these together that I would just be so mad at myself if I didn't thank the Carbon County Commissioners as well as the Emery County Commissioners. Most of them are here today. Huge thanks to SERDA. The amount of work that they do providing the building, and that's just the start of it. SERDA has been amazing since the very beginning, so we appreciate those guys, and the Office of Energy Development as well. So those are the partners that do a bunch of work behind the scenes to be able to put this together for you guys. So we'll have a break, roughly 12:15. There is a QR code that you can scan. We kind of quit printing out a bunch of agendas. I guess the world's getting away from paper, so take a picture of the agenda and then you'll have it. We'll have a break in there. The snacks are provided by SERDA. Big thanks to those guys. They take care of that as well. So we'll have a little time to mingle, and then lunch will be out here a little later on today. So bathrooms are out the door and around the corner to the back. Heaven forbid we have an emergency. Let's try and file out to the front, and we can meet together out there and hopefully get everybody accounted for. So we'll move forward. Big thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Our first speaker today is going to be Southeastern Entrepreneurial Network, also known as SEEN. Doug Miller made it in here today. I spoke with him for a minute, so Doug, let's have you get us started. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Travis. I appreciate it very much. So I was given an opportunity to do a spotlight on SEEN, and with that invitation came a pretty explicit expectation that if needed, I would be the one to help us get back on track with the agenda. So I will keep it purposefully short so that we can have Senator Hinkins and Representative Watkins come up and speak as well. But I want to take just a moment especially to thank and introduce a few folks here. Our board president is someone who I deeply appreciate. Zach, over here, would you please stand up for just a quick moment? So SEEN is a nonprofit, and we depend deeply upon our board of advisors to help us navigate the decisions that are made to support entrepreneurship and economic development in our region. What that looks like is a few different things, but all of them focused on that mission and purpose of Utah State University as the land-grant institution of the state to bridge the gap between the supply side and the demand side of economic development. SEEN, what we do is we take on different tasks and objectives that are provided by counties and other groups to provide research, exploration, and examination of where the demands are for workforce development. We're able to then convey that information to the folks at Utah State who work on workforce development so that we can work in a cohesive fashion to really support our region. We cover 4 counties, Grand, San Juan, Emery, and Carbon. And some of the work that you can see us doing, we've done reports and economic studies in Grand County. We've done infrastructure studies in Carbon and Emery County. Thank you to the Emery County Commission for supporting that study, which was a collaborative between Weber State University's Goddard School and the Huntsman School of Business. And finally, the biggest thing that I wanted to share before I turn the time over to our next speakers is we have, through a SED grant, the first one that's ever been achieved in the state of Utah, an entrepreneurial loan fund. So if you're running a business or you're supporting businesses that need to grow or want to grow, we have funding to support that, to the tune of about $385,000 that we are ready to deploy and resource your business to grow, with the specific goal of moving individuals from low to moderate income, where they'll have the benefits of full-time employment and be able to help grow your business the way that you need to. And so it's those efforts that allow SEEN to be an influential partner both with Utah State, with our Carbon and Emery, San Juan, and Grand County governments, to help to grow and push economic development forward. So I'd invite you to reach out if you have questions, if you have needs that fall into the purview that we have, because we would really love to work with you, your businesses, and to provide support where we can. Thank you very much.
Wow, he wasn't kidding. Well done. That was quick. I wasn't ready. Thank you for that. Great organization. We'll move forward with legislative updates. I'm happy to have Christine Watkins here, as well as Senator Hinkins. If we can have those guys come up and give a little bit of an update. And Christine, while they're coming up here, puts a ton of work into this meeting as well. So thank you, Christine.
Right there, does that work? Okay, welcome. I'm not sure who brought the rain. I thanked President Mortensen for that this morning. I've been hopeful all week because they kept saying we would get rain, and I'm like, it maybe, and it's here. So it's so exciting. I know we're all that way, but then now I'll be able to pull all those weeds that never died during the winter, because it'll help that. We had a good session this year. I'm sure it wasn't one full of highly controversial things. Do you feel that way? Yeah, we had a couple of little things, but nothing that kind of took the air out of the room as far as things going. And so we just kind of plowed along. Last year, I was invited to be one of three. We now have to be part of a brand new Western States Energy Caucus. And so I went to the first meeting last year. I'll have my last one, obviously, this year. But a lot of us, I attended more energy conferences last year than I have ever attended, because there's such a interest and a depth and wealth of things that we can do. So one of the bills that we did, he was my Senate sponsor, and it was kind of a funny bill because it dealt with geothermal study for our side of kind of the mountain and around here. And it passed without any problems, but it couldn't find funding for it. And if you need funding for a bill and you can't get it, your bill's dead. It's done. And so this bill was, for all intents and purposes, dead, and literally until the last night. And I have no idea where the funding came from, because they just came to me and said, "Hey, we've changed your bill, and we found funding, and now USU is going to be doing this geothermal study." So we got the $250,000. They're going to be doing it. They're also going to include earthquakes as a part of that study. So that was an interesting one for us to have. We had Representative Albrecht, and do you want to talk about this one, or do you want me to? Okay, this is a House concurrent resolution regarding advanced nuclear manufacturing. And Representative Albrecht was the House sponsor, and Senator Hinkins was the Senate sponsor. And it was expresses support for the advanced nuclear manufacturing industry and declares our state's desire to have nuclear manufacturing done in our state. So one of the things that has happened in the last couple of years is we have been very aggressive in putting rules and policies in in our state policy so that we could have these types of things happen in Utah. When Valor had their groundbreaking, I was talking to Isaiah, the owner, and he told me that they had looked at over 20 different states trying to decide where to put that. And he said, no one was as ready as Utah. And we've been a part of that. When we first came into the legislature together, and I don't remember whether it was 2009 or 10, we did a resolution back then supporting nuclear. Yeah, with Aaron Tilton and the Green River thing that actually never came to fruition, but yeah, but we've been supportive of it all the way along. And then, of course, as a state, we've been doing all of that stuff. So we had a lot of bills dealing with energy. Some of it is to stop some of the silly nuisance lawsuits that we get, and others just to make it easier and to put guardrails, and also to protect consumers with all of the data centers and all of the things that we have going on. Sometimes they come in and they think that they can put all their equipment and all the things that they do online, et cetera, and we share the cost of that as consumers. And we've said, no, that's not fair, because they're pretty pricey. So we did have really and truly, I felt like we had a great session. I was able to get my bills, all but a couple. Had a couple killed, but that's part of the game, and get those. And so I'm going to turn over to Senator Heekins, and he can talk about some of the things he did, and we can tag team if we need to.
Well, as usual, I didn't do a hell of a lot, but I didn't have any bills to run. So I'd done some House bills, but I didn't have any Senate bills that I was in charge of. So kind of ended up being funny. They kind of bitch about too many bills up at the legislature, anywhere from 800 to 1,000, 1,200, whatever it might be. And so they always tell you, we're running too damn many bills. And so I didn't run any bills. So they called me up about 2 days before the session, and they go, hey, I see you don't have any bills this year. And I go, yeah, so? And they go, well, Representative Craig Christopherson, he's got, his intern couldn't find a babysitter for her, and so we see that you don't have any bills and you've got an intern. I was wondering if he could borrow him or what, and I go, yeah, I guess. So I went all year without an intern, which is kind of, in a way, it's kind of nice, because I almost got smothered by the staff that's there year-round. So they felt sorry for me, so they wouldn't leave me alone. They're like, what can we do, what can we do? And I go, well, really not much, I don't do a hell of a lot. But anyway, I serve as the chairman of Appropriations for Natural Resources, and I've been doing that for quite a while. I've been in the legislature for 18 years, too damn long. And we, as Representative Watkins said, clear back in 2010, we made way for nuclear reactors with Blue Castle out of Green River and Aaron Tilton. There was going to be a big nuclear power plant there, which was going to be huge. And it never came to fruition. They couldn't find buyer for their power and stuff. It was before all the data centers came along, and so that kind of got stranded. But Utah State, I'm so glad to see our new president here. Brad, thanks for being here. The aviation, we've had a ribbon cutting for the aeronautical and for the mechanics. And we've had it for the pilots, the program for the pilots, and now we're going into management, airport management, as well as the maintenance or mechanics and stuff, because for every pilot that we actually need 3 mechanics. And so that was, the aerospace industry is going to be short of that, and so that's going to be a really asset. We're looking at maybe 100 students within the next few years. And it actually turns into being, it will be great for industry, period, because not just for airplanes, turbine engines are used in, as Lauren Huntsman, the Huntington and Hunter power plant, turbines, that's what turns our generators to produce power. So our natural gas turbines that we'll be using, as well as for because there's a bridge to, we're glad that nuclear is coming, but it's still, you know, a ways off to be full production or whatever it might be, wherever it gets to. And so the intermittent thing, and they're saying wind and solar, which we're getting some of that, but really the bridge is going to be natural gas turbines because they can be set up so much faster and be to fill the void spots. And you know, there's gas lines throughout the West. And Energy Transfer, who's here, is out at the Wellington, old U.S. Steel Horse Canyon wash plant. They're bringing the oil from the basin and loading it onto trains. And so that's been, they're like the second largest midstream gas company in the United States, and probably somewhat in the world. They're pretty big. I don't know how many thousands of miles of gas lines they have in the United States, but Energy Transfer is a big player in our area, and hopefully someday they'll maybe have a pipeline coming from the basin over to Wellington, and hopefully we're looking at one time we was going to get an oil refinery in Green River, and it kind of fell through. They got the permits and everything, and then they decided, well, if it was that damn easy, we ought to go bigger. And so they went bigger, and when they applied, then of course they lost the permit for the smaller one. And so, like they said, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered, and that's kind of what happened. And so we'd like to engage in because we need oil refineries. That's all there is to it. California's closing theirs. Nevada doesn't have any. Idaho doesn't have any. And so our price of fuel is going up because supply and demand. And as they shut down, there's more demand for oil and gas, but it has to be a refined product. And even though we can sell the crude and stuff and get it into the Louisiana, Texas area by rail, but you know, we know that there's probably going to play hell trying to expand in the Salt Lake Valley, the refineries up there with all the air quality problems and things that they have. And so anyway, would like to see that in Emery County. Carbon in Emery County, that we could have oil refineries possibly and be able to bring down the price of the fuel for consumers. We've really got a lot going on, and you're going to hear a lot of that today. But Utah's very well managed. I think we're going to be pretty much debt-free within the next 4 or 5 years, that we won't owe anybody anything. You know, we borrowed $1.5 billion when we done the I-15 from through the Springville area, and you know, we're spending a lot of money on transportation, on roads and stuff, and it does cost a lot, and the price just keeps going up. We're going to be able to put a overpass that's on the STIP list now for where 89 comes into Highway 6, which has been a real dangerous intersection for our residents, and so hopefully we're going to get that overpass. It's very costly, but we're working on some things up by the Spring Glen area. Some farmers not so happy the way that it's turning out, but we're working with them as a state to try to get it to where they can move their farm implements and things around. Like I said, we just got a lot going on. We're just very lucky to be in the state of Utah. Thank God this isn't New York, where everybody's fleeing. But we're one of the places that they may be fleeing to, especially from California. We're getting a lot of people that's coming here, refugees. We just hope they don't turn into missionaries and try to turn California or Utah into California. And so we welcome them, and they got great ideas and great businesses. And so the Energy Center is just, Sanderfell Energy Center is just a windfall for us, and we're going to be putting Utah State, we're going to have a ribbon cutting down in Monument Valley, a new college campus down there, which would be concurrent enrollment for the kids in San Juan County and Monument Valley. It's going to be a real windfall. Most of it was charitable donations. The state, I think, only had to pay like $5 million. It's $15 million, and so a lot of it was charitable donations from a lot of independently wealthy people, evidently. And so we appreciate that. It's going to be great for southeastern Utah. We've got the National Guard now that's been relocated out there just south of Helper. That's going to be really nice for our area, for our young kids that are joining the military. I had a grandson that's 18, and he's in the Utah National Guard, and so it's kind of nice to see that he don't have to drive up to Camp Williams every weekend, that maybe they'll be able to do it in Price. We're just a great state. And we're starting to see a few things. I mean, there's been a lot going on up in the Salt Lake Valley, but we're starting to see some things going on in rural Utah, especially in our area. Also in IPP, we're trying to take over that power plant to keep it running. It's such a great asset for the state of Utah, and we're just trying to convince California that we own it, and we'd like to keep it operational and be able to keep our coal industry, because that would be 4 or 5 million tons a year that we could keep continue mining in the state. And of course, most of this coal now is on Sitla land. The Fossil Rock mine and the Bronco mine is all on Sitla land, and the Lila Canyon mine through that Dingle Act, and the Grand Staircase on the Fossil Rock. And so it'll be about $10 million windfall at the Fossil Rock mine to the school trust fund. And that thing's getting up to be a lot of money, and comes back into the rural areas, to all school districts, but really is a big help for the small school districts. It's probably not as big an impact in Salt Lake area as it is in rural areas, because we have a smaller budget, and so when they bring that kind of money into our budget, it's a big deal. And so it's that, and trying to get PILT, and we had the announcement yesterday that the U.S. Forest Service is going to locate in the Salt Lake area, and I've heard it's going to be in the Bennett building. That because of DOGE, we had the NRCS and a lot of federal agencies there, that they abolished quite a few of the federal jobs, and so this will bring 400 jobs into the Salt Lake Valley, into the Bennett building. It's probably where they'll be located and they're excited to be here. Most of the people that I've heard, the director of Forest Service, most of these people are from the West, and they got stuck back there in D.C., and they probably glad to get out of there and come to Utah. And so we welcome them. It's going to be good paying jobs for our citizens, and for the state income taxes that comes off of that goes into our schools, and stuff's going to help education a lot, to educate our kids, because we're going to need educated kids with all the high-tech industry that's coming with the nuclear and the new type of generating of power and everything that we have, communications. So we're glad to represent you in the legislature. It's been an honor, and of course Chris is going to be leaving, and so we're going to miss her a lot, and I'm not too far behind her. So anyway, we're thankful for the support that we get from you, and so we're always around if there's anything we can do to, we might fall on deaf ears. We can't do a hell of a lot sometimes, but we'll do what we can. And it's like I said, I'm glad to be from rural Utah, and I said that to a fundraiser down there where, proud to be from a place where our cars are on blocks and our homes are on wheels. And sometimes you have to travel a lot when you live in Utah, in rural Utah so anyway, thanks for all you do, and we're glad to have you here. So.
I wanted to just quickly brag on something that happened sort of quickly, and it was a ton of work, but it was a lot of fun. And that was in 2024, I found out that our East Carbon Coke ovens didn't belong to anybody in Utah. And it was like, what? And so every time anybody goes up there, they've been trespassing. But of course they weren't blocked off or anything. And if you're in New York, how would you know what we're doing out here? And I just by accident found out and asked if I could help, and found out who owned it. Started all that in 2024, and then they just didn't do anything until last November. And then we're hearing no money for the session, cut budgets, no money. And I knew East Carbon didn't have money, Carbon County didn't have money. How are we going to get this? I don't want it to be taken away from us, be owned by private people. And literally the first day of the session, I'm talking to the owner in New York. I'm talking to a powerful person in the legislature. And the one thing that he said that gave me hope was, we fund all these programs, but we really like buying land. And so it took clear till the end of the session. The Parks Department it didn't even come from the general fund, it came from a restricted account. And as of this week, they're working together, Kurt in New York and the director of the state Parks Department, on getting it surveyed, and we've got all the funding that we need for it. And it's just exciting for me, because it will be ours. And
Possibility of the state park.
yeah, it'll be a possibility of a state park. I had money put in for the request to do a lot of that. And then if we can get it designated as a historical site, which should not be a problem, that opens up grants. And we'll hopefully be able to restore the railroad building and do some really cool things up there. So I just want you to know, it's one of those things that kind of drops in your lap and you work really hard. And I've had several people come to me just this last weekend and say, we tried to buy that. We tried to buy that, and they wouldn't. And I think it's truly because they saved it for us and for the right time and place. So I just want to brag about that, because that was so cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Well done. They always do such a great job, and the amount of work that you guys do in all political positions is immeasurable, so thank you. I wanted to mention a few people. I really want to mention PJ Jensen is here today with Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining. He represents the mining department, works diligently. I work in the same office with him, and so PJ's joined us today, so thank you, PJ, for being here. Anybody that has anything mining related and kind of has questions with OGM, he's the guy, so thank you for being here. And real quick as well, I looked in the back, and Justin Needles, the director of the emergency management, is here, along with Whitney Coonrod. These guys spoke at a collaborative a while back and done a great job, but we have all these moving parts, and it's easy to not stop and think about emergency management stuff. So we can't do this without a backup plan, and that's what they put together for us. So thank you to some of those people. I know I could go around the room and mention everybody, but thank you to a few of you right there. So moving forward, I would like to invite up Carbon County Commissioner Martinez to speak to us a little bit.
So good morning. I am not Larry Jensen, nor am I Jared Haddock or Shanny, so I got up here at the last minute. So I don't have any prepared remarks, and thank you for coming. We'll see you later. I will just say there are a ton of good things coming to Carbon County. The commission had a meeting yesterday with a company that's interested in moving in, and it's not an industry that we're used to. And that's the exciting thing. When I got in office 8 years ago, just a little history for you for Carbon County, there were 20 projects that Carbon County was in debt to, in the tune of $33 million. I am not running for office again, so this will be my last year. I know that is good for a lot of people, especially my wife. And any elected official understands that the spouse and the family go through a lot of different things. So those who are running, those who want to help and make things better, as the famous word goes, I appreciate your efforts. But Carbon County was in a bad spot. A lot of the coal mines, as we know, were going down. The power plant, the carbon power plant, it shut down in 2014, was tore down in 2015. And then in August of 2019 was the last time that an ounce of coal was mined within the county. Today we see the struggles that Skyline is going through and how easily Mother Nature can close one of these operations. So as this started to happen to Carbon County in our tenure, the last 2 terms, we, the commission, have reached out to other industry. There's a lot of people that'll come knocking to the door and looking for incentives, but the true ones that really want to be here, like this company yesterday, they haven't asked for an incentive. Their project potentially could be $500 million. They would employ about 140 to 160 people. The average wage would be about $70,000 a year. There are currently 17 projects that the Carbon County Commission on Economic Development are talking to. 5 of these are legitimate projects, and that is not even including what John Houston and Intermountain Electronics is doing. So the interest in our community is incredible, and it's not just the commission. I think it's really our people, our staff, our community. Those are what are attracting industry to our community. Now that I'm going out as a politician, I can say this, and no disrespect to those current ones, but have you guys heard about the Cobra conundrum? Has anybody heard that? What that was, it was a problem in India with cobras. They were overrun with cobras. And so government decided what we'll do is we will give you X amount of dollars per cobra that you kill and bring to us. And so, people started doing that. And obviously there's industrious folks that will see an opportunity. So they started raising cobras. They started cobra farms. They were rolling in the cash. Well, the government found out what was going on and said, okay, we're going to end this. This is not working out. And the problem was, as government got involved, and the problem was here. When government pulled out, it was up here. It made it worse. So I say that just to be thoughtful in what you're trying to introduce and what you're trying to make happen in your community. You don't want to have a conundrum and make it worse. I'm glad Senator Hinkins wasn't in the room when I said that. So I have a lot of respect for him and a lot of other faces in here too. So they do a good job. But getting back to Carbon County, really excited with the potential that's coming here. And the one thing that is tied in with 3 of the 5 top projects, they want to work with the university. And the thing that is so cool about the direction the university is going in is they're willing and adapting to the needs of these developers. Politicians, we get a lot of credit for things. We get a lot of criticism as well, but it really does take a lot of people to make things happen. I never, and I think some people can say, I'd never want to take credit for the good things. I want to take credit for the bad things. And meaning, obviously, if you're from Carbon County, you know that we raised taxes in 2019. I take full credit for that, and I think that's one of the best things that we ever did. The employees can take credit for the good things. That's what they need to stand for, and that's the things that are happening within our community are because of them. So I can't tell you what some of these projects are. We do have NDAs, but it ranges from data centers. We have 3 data centers that are looking to build here. Manufacturing, there are 2 manufacturers that are looking to move in. There's some folks that want to take, I would say, I can't give away too much, possibly blending facilities with a product that comes out of Uinta Basin. There's some energy generation folks as well, so it runs the gamut. There's so much potential coming in. We're thankful that the university is here, one of the big supporters of this community, the hospital as well. Those are some major attractions that are part of these incentives that are coming, and some of these developments that are coming, I should say. The airport as well. I got a call yesterday that there are 4 people that want to build hangars out there. The university as well wants to have some hangar space out there. There's another gentleman that wants to build 52 hangars. We have so much interest, and it's so varied. It's not just one industry. It's so neat to see what's going on. We are going to have some changes here as well. Some of the traffic coming is going to increase. We know that with what John Houston is doing, with more of the crude coming from the Uinta Basin over to our area. We just see so much happening. So I'm thankful for the staff that make things happen. So thankful for the other two commissioners, including Casey Hopes, who was in when I got in, and just so happy and excited for what's coming. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. We'd like to hear from the Emery County Commissioners as well, and I apologize that I didn't mention, they're just talking about economic development in 2026, so some of the things that are going on in the two counties. But we have Commissioner Leonard here, as well as Commissioner Warwood, if we could have them talk to us.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity to visit with you, and thanks, Commissioner. A couple things to talk about today. Let's start with Green River. So we love Green River as part of our county. A couple businesses that are in Green River. A1 Lithium, I don't know if you've had a chance to hear about that company, but they're looking to expand. They get brine out of the ground and they can produce lithium. AirBuild is in Green River. It's a wastewater company. They treat wastewater, and they're hiring employees as well. We're trying to do our best to partner with Green River, the Green River Business Alliance, small business development. A lot of Green River City is in a inland port, and so the inland port also helps the city recruit and do things like that. On this side of the county, we work closely with Valor, excited about Valor. We were up there in meetings yesterday. There are employees and people everywhere building that out. Also the research center. The state now owns the research center, trying to work closely with the state and the research center to build out companies as well as support them in the work that they're doing. So very excited about Valor. I think we need to partner and do what we can to potentially have their manufacturing in Carbon and Emery County. And so if you have any connections that way, we would love to see Valor continue to work here in our community. Solar projects are a big topic for sure. I think they're beating down our door in Emery County. There's probably over $2 billion in investment looking at our county and just solar alone. It's a hot topic. We're trying to filter through what's best for the community and best for our people. Housing's always an issue. Affordable housing, we're trying to work with our housing committees and different entities to try to build affordable housing. We consider affordable housing between $200,000 and $300,000. I know there are a lot of developers that can build over 300. It's hard to build under 300,000, and so we're working with them to try to help lower their cost and make it worth their time to build in Emery County. Partner closely with our business chamber, small business support, appreciate all that they do. We don't currently have an economic development director. I think we're looking into that. We have a lot of projects on the table that we run around and try to support those. But we do need an economic development director to follow through with those inquiries and company follow-throughs. Water is a big topic. We have the Colorado River Compact. That's probably going to come to a head here soon. We're definitely worried about our water storage and love to see the rain today. So at least there's some positive there. But we need to keep our ear to the ground and make sure that we're a part of where our water's going and trying to keep it in our counties. The last thing I want to talk about, and I'll give some time to Commissioner, property taxes are always a concern for us. We're trying to look at lowering property taxes so that businesses can come to our community and thrive. The last thing to mention would be supporting our local entrepreneurs. We run a junior entrepreneurship program. We had 51 youth in that program. Some of our partners, SERDA, Valor, and the county, and also SEEN. We want to develop our youth into entrepreneurs so that they can continue to build businesses in our community. There were 26 funded businesses and over 12,000 to help them get seed money to get their businesses started. Those are just a few things. If you have questions, I know that was kind of a shotgun effect, but if you want to visit with us a little more about some of these subjects, we'd love to talk to you about them. Thank you.
I'm going to take just a little bit of a longer view. Commissioner Leonard's mentioned several really important things. One thing we've got in Emery County is we know how to make electricity, and we're going to make more electricity, and electricity is going to be ever more valuable because of all of the applications. So we've traditionally exported our coal and to some extent our water as in the form of electricity. I think one of our challenges would be in the future to see if we can't find more local uses for the electricity that we produce so that we could generate some other businesses that are allied with that. And that's going to require water, so I think that we need to be strategic in looking at how we can get more water. And the only new water, quote unquote, new water that we've got available to us is if we recover some of the water we're presently wasting. And that's going to be expensive, but water has a value. So I think strategically, looking down the road, we need to look at ways to conserve water so that we've got more water for new homes or for new businesses. That might include recycling some of the water that's coming off some of our present processes. Commissioner Leonard and I just barely returned from Kemmer, Wyoming on Monday night. I'll just talk briefly about that because it was almost like a time machine going up there. They've suspended operations at their coal plant. They converted it over to gas. So as we visited with them, they were closing down their coal mine there, and they're going to lose millions of dollars in local revenue because of that. We looked at the nuclear plant that's being built up there by the TerraCore or TerraPower. Just briefly, if you're not familiar with that, I was surprised that the footprint of that plant is only going to be 60 acres. The reactor vessel is stainless steel. It'll be about a cylinder about 40 feet in diameter and about 70 feet long, and it will be underground. So it will be below grade, and they're going to run molten salt through it, so it's sodium. They'll take the salt to another facility right nearby, store it in big tanks, and that's basically like battery storage, and then that sodium's going to be 800 to 1,000 degrees Celsius in temperature. Then they'll run that through a heat exchanger, turn water into steam, and then the rest of that is just exactly like our coal plants. They anticipate they'll hire about 250 people. About a fourth of those will be security. So in the future, to get into that facility, you'll have two checkpoints. One where you'll have to show a badge. The second one, they're talking about a retinal scan. So it's almost like something out of a movie. The other thing that was interesting is that in the traditional old-style nuclear plants that we have around the country, they've got a 10-mile radius that would need to be evacuated in case of an accident on site. The radius at that plant will be their fence line. So that shows you some of the safety advances. So I say that because we hope that in the future we can tie into some of those technology. We've got Valor, who has a completely different form of nuclear technology that we think has an important place as well. But water, power, and then property taxes. And I think we will lower property taxes. And hopefully we can attract some new businesses that will give us a little more diversity in our workforce and in in our economic package. So with that, that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all commissioners for the update. It's obviously exciting to hear some of the things they have going on. I think water affects everybody, obviously, for so many different things, and it's something that's kind of been overlooked a little bit to a small degree, so I'm glad that's something that they're looking at. Moving forward, I'm excited to have the Utah State University president here to bring us an update. Let's have Brad Mortensen come up next.
Morning, everyone. It's great to be with you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brad Mortensen. I've been the president at USU since November 10th, so going on about 5 months here now, but it's great to be here, to be with all of you. You know, I've been in the state for a while. I worked at Weber State for 21 years and got to be president there for about 7 years. And before that, I worked for the State Board of Regents and with the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget on higher education stuff, and did a lot of work at the time with the College of Eastern Utah. And so this is just really one of the exciting things for me. You know, I was a student at Utah State a long time ago. I grew up in Idaho and went to Ricks College and transferred to USU, but you know, it's been exciting for me coming back to Utah State, not just because of my ties there to Logan, but also because of some of the work I got to do early in my career, working with all of the schools across the state, and seeing at the time, you know, I kind of unplugged for 20 years, just focusing on Weber State and Weber and Davis County stuff. But to come back and have a chance to work with all of you here in Carbon County and Emery County, and you know, down into Grand and San Juan and in the basin, and really try to see what Utah State's role is there now. And some, you know, a lot has changed over those 20 years when I was kind of focused in northern Utah. But one thing that hasn't changed, hopefully, is the great connection and vibrancy that our higher education institutions have with the work that all of you are trying to do, whether you're in industry or in government, or trying to support the entrepreneurial network, or our huge energy sector that has so much exciting potential and opportunity here now. And just hopefully, you know, with me being here today, and almost made it to Price every month since I've been president, and that it's going to continue to lay out that way. So really just want to be able to be here and be a partner with all of you. I am not going to be the guy who comes up with the great research ideas, or I'm not going to be able to tell you how to start a business and have that run effectively, but what my goal and hope is just to help bring the right people together to facilitate those conversations, and to try to be an advocate and try to find the resources to help the university be a key cog in helping to address some of the opportunities and potential that we have here. And so I really appreciate the chance to be with you all today and to share some of the things that are happening at USU now, and some of the hopes that we have to do in the future, and to really let you all know that we want to be a very strong partner going forward. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the vice chair of our board of trustees, who's here, Gina Gagan. Gina is a constant advocate with all of our trustees and all of us across the university to make sure that we're being cognizant to what's happening here in Eastern Utah, and what's happening across our statewide programs. So really appreciate Gina's support, and she's taught me that it's not a very long drive from Logan to Price. So she's in Logan a lot, and so I'm trying to show that the road works the other way too. But just a few things that as far as goals that I have going forward, and it ties into a lot of the things that you all have been sharing this morning. And first and foremost, back in January, we did a statewide bus tour across some of our sites, and spent some time here in Price and in Moab and Blanding, and as well as in Vernal and Roosevelt and Tooele and in Salt Lake County and in Brigham City. But it just, the potential and the opportunities that exist across USU's statewide system are just so real and so powerful, and they're unique in every community. But what's consistent there is just kind of the hunger to do something big, and that's the students, the faculty and staff there, and the communities that support those, and that's definitely true with what we've seen here. So the first goal that I've kind of set is to really expand the statewide impact that USU has, and that's through our statewide campuses, through our extension programs. You know, it's not a secret that Utah State's been through a little bit of controversy the last few years and a lot of turnover, and as we've done that, I think we've kind of hunkered down a little bit in Logan, and maybe not given the support to the folks across extension or in our statewide campuses that they deserve and need. And so, you know, we want to flip that and really lean into the opportunities to have an impact across the state. We're the land grant school, and that means we have that responsibility to everyone to have a positive impact. And so we're going to move into that area. Another thing I'm passionate about a lot is just our commitment to student success. We, as an institution, you know, as colleges and universities overall, our sector is under a lot of scrutiny across the country, and I think we've brought that on ourselves for kind of thinking that we're the ivory tower and people need to come to us and figure things out. We were just talking, Representative Watkins was just sharing a story at breakfast that when, you know, she was getting her degree for a quarter for reasons unbeknownst to anyone, but she had to, you know, finish that up in Logan, and those are just things that maybe we thought were good ideas at one point, but we don't need to do that anymore. I was talking to some students a while ago, and they were saying how frustrating it was that their math scores expire, or their math classes, sometimes if you've taken math and haven't taken the next level or used it for your prerequisite or whatever, it expires after 2 years. And I just, I found out it used to be 1. We've increased it to 2 now, so we feel pretty good about that. But I'm like, math is not milk. It doesn't expire like that. I mean, we lose some of our math ability, but it's not just, it doesn't go bad. So we're trying, just little things like that. We're trying to work on to reflect how we can be more student-centered, and we know that the real value of higher education, there's all kinds of learning that happens along the way, but the real impact for folks is when they get that credential or that degree at the end of their pathway. And too many times we, as an institution, have put up barriers for not very good reasons to keep people from doing that. So we're going to try to focus on that area. Third thing, which I'm really excited about, is just our research mission. We're a Research One university. That's pretty elite status across the country when you compare who those types of schools are, but we want to really make sure our discovery is with a purpose. And as we talk about energy and water and our land use and air quality and those other things, you know, USU has the capacity to be leading the way and helping to work with the industry and work with others to find solutions to that and to figure out how to do things in more innovative, creative ways in the future that'll benefit everyone. And so we really want to lean into that discovery with a purpose, and especially as technology is changing and coming online, there's a whole lot of opportunities there, and we have a lot of great folks who are working on solutions in those areas. And then the fourth goal that I have is to make sure that, you know, everything is so divisive in the world today, and universities have a responsibility, I think, to demonstrate that we don't all have to agree, we don't all have to come up with the same solutions all the time, but we can be that hub that, you know, lets people debate openly and be respectful, and to really develop that sense of community and civic mindedness, and to show that there's a lot more that we agree on than we disagree on, and that if we work together we can move things forward. So those are some of the things that I'm focused on, and we're launching a strategic planning effort, although we're probably not doing it as fast as our Board of Trustees wants us to. But we've got teams together working across those areas, across the university, including folks from our statewide systems that will help us. You know, we're come up with how we're going to measure our progress in those 4 areas, and then really work to make sure that we're putting in strategies that help move us forward. We know a couple of things that we're doing even before looking at that strategic plan, and that was informed by the statewide tour, is that we can be more strategic in the courses and the academic programs and the technical programs that we're offering across the statewide system. A lot of times in the past, that's been a little bit dependent on just, maybe what a faculty member's or administrator's interests are, or just some tradition, and that we haven't maybe adapted to what's happening in the communities that we serve. And so we're working, going through our data and kind of overlaying what classes we teach, and are they in person, are they online, are they through our Connect system where it's kind of live streamed for multiple places, and what's the best way that we can set up our academic profile that's serving the communities that we're in to make sure that we are doing meeting the demands not only that students have, but also the communities and the industries in those communities have. We're really excited about all of the energy stuff that's happening. Had the chance to visit IE yesterday afternoon and was really blown away by the great work that's happening and just not only the work, but honestly the potential that we have from the university side to partner with them and really help to build programs that help train people up. And this is why I'm excited. This is why I work in higher education, because I believe it's that transformative opportunity for everyone to increase their economic mobility. And with great partners like IE and others of you here, we can find a way to give people the knowledge, give people the internships and work opportunities, and continue to stack programs in a way that they can progress throughout their career and their lifetime and really see a tremendous difference. And that's really what I'm excited about doing and leaning into and figuring that out with all of you. It's great. I did not expect this large of a group to be here today. So it's cool to see the passion and the energy that's just in this room, and the potential for us all to work together, and really want you all to know that USU, USU Eastern, and our whole statewide system and our research and extension programs, we're all really we'll only reach our full level of success if we're working with all of you. So appreciate that. Appreciate the support from our legislators, and Senator Hinkins gives me a bad time every once in a while, but I probably deserve it. So, but it's great to work with them in the Capitol, and whenever we're here, when we're, he's talking about when we were expanding the aviation program and for the mechanics and everything, just we have great partners in the legislature, and we're looking forward to expand to do more here to support the community. And if it's okay, I'd love to just open it up for a minute. I mean, it seems like most of the talking's been going this way this morning, but there's a lot I know that I need to learn, and just if anyone has anything you'd want to share with me as far as you think would be helpful, as I'm new in this role and wanting to work with and support all of you, and if we take a few minutes for that.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
I was sitting here thinking, how am I going to relay this to you to see if you're open for questions?
Yeah.
So we're happy to have you here. Does anybody from the audience have any questions? And if you do, please use the microphone. We'll have one on both sides. That way it's picked up on the audio. So if there's any questions in the room.
Yeah, Michelle.
Thank you. I'm wondering what plans USU Eastern currently has for future development in the energy engineering field for
Yeah.
students?
Yeah, so there was some funding that the legislature set aside 2 years ago designated for energy engineering and to help it be statewide. And so, can I say, Jessica? I mean, we're working on the curriculum and getting the faculty in place and hired so that we can get that program up and going really, really soon. How's that?
We're, just to build on it a little bit, so.
Jessica Euler is the chief of staff in my office, and so she keeps track of more of what's going on than I do, yeah, so.
What we've been doing is taking a hot minute. If you look at when. Hello. What we've been doing over the last couple of years is working to make sure that we're building out the curriculum that meets the needs of everybody. Energy engineering is more of a broad-based degree, and so we're working with partners to build that out to make sure that we have it. So we're opening up, start making hires. We're making 9 faculty hires. The other thing that we're working to do right now is hopefully to start for fall, hiring a professor that will start teaching some of our basic engineering courses in person here while we work to build out the complete energy engineering degree.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, thanks for asking that, because that's something that we are hoping, it's, like Jessica said, it's taken a hot minute, but we're, it doesn't need to be perfect for us to get started now, because we know what some of those basic engineering courses are, so we'll get those going.
Jessica actually made the comment that I was going to make, which is that we are actually opening the position and looking to have some of these introductory engineering programs start in fall of '26. So it's been really exciting to work with President Mortensen and Chief of Staff Jessica Euler. They have hit the ground running, and things are happening, and I think you'll see things happening, because we have all been waiting for the engineering program to actually take off, since we learned that the money had been appropriated by the state legislature, and we're going to start seeing it happen soon, and starting with fall of '26.
But there's a little bit of interest in that from what I've gathered. So keep pushing us. Any other suggestions, questions, comments? I know the break is next, and so, Greg.
Do you like the new basketball coach?
You run the risk of getting me into a long diatribe about collegiate athletics in 2026, but yeah. I mean, but what's been cool the last month with USU basketball is, kind of seeing some of the peaks and valleys of college athletics, and winning a regular season Mountain West championship, winning a, tournament championship, winning a first-round game in the NCAA tournament, playing Arizona tougher than anybody else has thus far in the tournament, and then losing our coach before the plane even lands back in Logan to go off to another job. But the new coach, Ben Jacobson from Northern Iowa, and probably a lot of folks haven't heard of him, but he's had a really successful program, and he's the kind of guy that I think we can build some sustainability around. And so, yeah, we're excited. So yesterday we announced that. Just what's interesting, if you're an athletics fan at all, maybe some of you are and some of you don't care, but we were waiting for the press conference to start yesterday morning, and he was like trying to peek out, not to see like what media were there, but what members of this year's team were there, because he's got until next Tuesday to keep them from going into the transfer portal. And so it's an entirely different dynamic than the old days with the transfer portal dynamic. And so he's like got 5 days to re-recruit his current team before he knows what he has to get out of the portal for next year. It was funny seeing that, interesting seeing that up close.
Can you just give us an update on what's happening with technicians that would be like entry-level technicians for wind and solar, since we see a lot of that has come to the area and there's investment coming, as far as training technicians to go into those areas?
Yeah, so our program, one thing that's really exciting to me with how USU Eastern is set up here, and Price, Moab, and Blanding, is we have that technical program mission, whereas technical colleges have that in other parts of the state. And I've tried to always work closely with them when I was at Weber State. So, but we want to really be sensitive to the needs in those areas. We know that there's shortage, and Zach Kanakis is working to make sure that our curriculum aligns with what those needs are, and that we can expand the opportunities. That's one area where maybe we could have done better from Logan, of making sure the resources are in place to meet the needs, and that we're recruiting students to what those opportunities are. But that's something that's definitely on the radar. But we want to make sure that we build the pathways out so that whatever those short-term certificates are, that then they lead really seamlessly into, associates or bachelor's degrees for students if they want to pursue those opportunities down the road, even if they just want to get to work right now, but know that that's an opportunity in the future. Thanks, everyone. Look forward to working with you.
Wow, what a great job. Thank you. Thanks for that. I was looking around the room a little further, and I really want to thank our Salt Lake staff from the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining. They've supported the collaborative from the beginning. They're here today. Mick Thomas, the director, as well as Jen Middleton, has traveled down along with some additional Salt Lake staff. Jen is our new deputy director. Thank you guys for being here, to all the Salt Lake staff, as well as the Vernal staff. We have a big handful of Vernal staff here as well. So Richard Powell is here, along with Orlin Wallace, came down, a couple of the managers that we have, and lots of their employees. So really thank you to the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining staff for supporting us. Thank you, thank you. And the biggest thing we're trying to get to, of course, let's have the morning break. If I'm not skipping anything, we'll try and get back, take the time to mingle, take a break. Let's try and be back about 10:45. So thank you, guys.
basically what you'll see here is the presenter view.
Great, fantastic.
And thank you, Matt. My pleasure.
All right, everyone, if we can get people to slowly find their seats, we'll get going. I know we got a handful still in the hall. We'll let them file in and we'll get started. I feel bad interrupting, but I have to. If everybody can kind of give us your attention. There you go. I can't do that. Whoever done that, I owe you $1. That was awesome. Thank you, thank you. I know we have a handful in the hall, and we got such great speakers. I just really don't want anybody to miss anything or the chaos when they come in and somebody's talking. So we'll get everybody gathered in here. Thank you, guys. This is like the hardest part. This is the hardest part of the entire day, is to interrupt that conversation. I feel like you guys should probably throw things and be like, we were having a good talk. We can have more at lunchtime for sure. While we're waiting just a couple of more minutes, I want to thank Dana Dean. Dana, come down. She is the Deputy Director of the coal program for Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining out of Salt Lake. So thank you for being here, Dana. I apologize, I didn't see you. We'll move forward. I think we got most of us. So the next speaker that we have today, I've been chatting with him quite a bit. It's an honor to introduce the energy and economic modeling for Utah's coal country. We have Dr. Cody Powell with us from the University of Utah. Thanks, Cody. Just the green button. I don't know if you have a slide. Okay. Just the green one. Nope.
Oh, that one. Great. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm really glad to participate. I'm Cody Powell. I'm here today representing the Energy and Geoscience Institute at the University of Utah. I'm also on the faculty of chemical engineering at the University of Utah, but what I do now is really energy engineering. So I want to start off with just introducing myself a little bit. I'm going to start off with my most impressive credential. So I'm a proud graduate of Emery High School. So I did my undergraduate in chemical engineering at the University of Utah, and then I went to graduate school at the University of Texas at Austin. This is Cindy. She went to the second best engineering school in Texas. Okay. After graduate school, I worked in downstream for ExxonMobil in the Houston area, and then this is a photo of me and my wife in the hills above Salt Lake City. So about a decade ago, I was, after spending about 7 years in Texas, we had the opportunity to come back to my alma mater at the University of Utah. We just love being back in Utah. I personally love coming down to Carbon and Emery County. I try to do this as much as I can, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. I show this picture. This is a little bit of a sidebar, but this gives you some context. I grew up in Emery County. My wife is from France, so she grew up about 90 miles or 90 minutes outside of Paris. So when we introduce ourselves and we tell people like where we're from, you sort of see these lights come on and they're like, I know what they're thinking, and it's a little rude, frankly, but they're basically thinking, how does this hillbilly from the middle of nowhere end up with someone so classy and from such an exotic place? And my explanation is basically, Emery County isn't as exotic as people think it is. I have pre-tested that joke with her, and she approves. I've been trying to culture her by teaching her about cow tipping and rolling stuff down hills and going out to the desert and lighting stuff on fire. And so she's gradually picking up the appropriate culture. Currently I'm doing a lot of work with the Energy and Geoscience Institute at the University of Utah. And so this is an organization that has been around for over 50 years with a strong history in oil and gas, doing a lot of work with geothermal energy, things like carbon sequestration. So I know very little about these projects, but these are some of the really huge things that my colleagues are doing. So this is the Utah Forge project in Milford. So the University of Utah with EGI has established itself as kind of one of the premier research institutions for studying enhanced geothermal energy, where you can go explore, you're just digging, or you're drilling to find heat deep down in the earth, but you don't necessarily need that to be like hot water or steam. You can just drill down, tap into the heat, and then you're sending water down to create steam. So this is probably the premier geothermal research project in the country. So just very cool to be sort of familiar. I'm trying to learn a little bit more about geothermal energy. Utah has a lot of potential, and I'm sure this is no surprise to anybody, but Utah's got a ton of potential for a wide range of different energy resources. I have colleagues who have worked really closely with folks here in Carbon and Emery County doing exploring opportunities for carbon capture and sequestration. You know, our political landscape changes dramatically depending on who's the president. So at one point, this was thought of to be a technology where they could harvest CO2 from the power plants to help the power plants stay in business longer. But we also would look into things like beneficial use of CO2. So EGI is an institution that is out here in rural Utah trying to help figure out ways to keep the coal power plants going for longer. We know that that is critical to the economy here. I have another colleague who is doing critical minerals exploration. So she is working with data from NASA. They do these flyovers with like high altitude jets and satellites that it's called hyperspectral imaging. So they are shining wavelengths all across the spectrum at the ground, and they can use that information to identify what critical minerals are on the surface. So Carbon and Emery County have a pretty good critical minerals capability. I would definitely defer any questions about that to my colleagues. But we are here, we are trying to really help Carbon and Emery County. So I want to introduce a little bit of what I do. My research is like energy systems, so I'm really looking at like big picture, like trying to see the whole landscape and trying to figure out how do different technologies fit together. So we do a lot of studies on things. We take ideas that might be out there and we just try and do some modeling, look at the economics of projects and try and say, does this idea really make sense? So you guys are seeing solar panels go up all over the place down here. So utility scale solar from that decade 2010 to 2020, utility scale photovoltaic technology saw this dramatic decrease in cost. And so that has led to solar becoming a really prevalent energy technology. Pop quiz. Tell me the state that has the most solar power deployed. Nevada's a good guess. It's California, the Sunshine State. California's the Sunshine State, right? Oh, shoot. Well, okay. Okay, well, California, I get... That's my Emery High credential, yeah. So I get really jealous of California because they have all this sunshine. In fact, they should probably think about adopting that name. I get really jealous of California because they have this great solar energy resource, and they are taking advantage of all this really low-cost solar energy, right? So California should be the place to be for low-cost energy. So I want to take a look at how California is taking advantage of all this low-cost solar energy. So this is cost of energy by state, and which state do you see that sticks out like a sore thumb in the West? It's California, as by far the most expensive electricity in the Western United States. So 2 or 3 times more expensive than everyone around. And I don't pretend to be an expert on California, obviously. Then there's a whole lot going on there, so it's not just this issue. But one of the issues that happens with solar, so we look at solar, we look at these declining costs. Solar has, there's this metric that's used in energy research called the levelized cost of energy, and it's a number that sort of bundles in like how much your fuel costs, how much the capital costs are to install, even like your financing charges over the life of a project. So the levelized cost of energy or the levelized cost of electricity is often used to promote a technology. So solar currently, in some circumstances, can have a really low cost of energy. However, what happens is if you try to have too much solar, it's variable and it's intermittent. So you build out this infrastructure for solar, then when the sun goes down, you have to have a whole separate infrastructure to provide electricity after the sun goes down. So I'm not trying to pick on solar or California necessarily, but I'm just saying when we look at projects like this, you have to consider sort of the full spectrum. That metric, levelized cost of energy, is fine, but you really want to look at the impact that a particular technology will have on your whole system. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do in my research group, is answer some of these questions. So we did a study. This was inspired by a candidate for Salt Lake mayor several years ago who knocked on my door, and the first thing he said was, if you elect me to be mayor of Salt Lake City, I'm going to make it my #1 priority to make Salt Lake 100% renewable within my 4-year term. And I think I kind of gave him this like, I wanted to say, dude, I'm an engineer. So that kind of inspired this study that we're doing. This is kind of high-level modeling, but we looked at, okay, if you really did want to make a city 100% with 100% renewable energy, what would that take and what would it cost? So we did this kind of hypothetical study on what would it cost. So we did a greenfield study where you could build everything from scratch, considering solar and wind. You definitely need like really large batteries to make those technologies work as you get to these really high penetration renewables. But then we also threw in a natural gas combined cycle power plant as a backup. And so we did this study and we looked at, okay, what would it cost at different levels of renewable energy penetration? We looked at different places throughout the country. So these are our results from Texas. So if you look at that, focus on that bottom blue line. So that's the levelized cost of electricity for the whole system. And on the x-axis is the renewable energy fraction. So it's kind of cool. The cost stays pretty flat. You can actually inject quite a bit of renewable energy into your system without dramatically impacting the cost. However, the closer you get to 100% renewable energy, you see those costs start to skyrocket. So the costs, in this particular case, the costs are like quadruple or quintuple the normal cost of electricity. And this is just large, because you have to have 2 different infrastructures. Or to get to 100% renewable energy, you have to massively overbuild solar and then massively overbuild batteries, because you're trying to do things like collect enough energy in the summer and fall to get you through a winter. So we're just looking at issues like this and trying to provide this kind of removed engineering perspective, like here's how the numbers really play out. One really cool part of this story for me, that coal is actually helping renewables. So in partnership with Rocky Mountain Power and the Huntington Power Plant, we did this study on looking at how much the coal power plants were ramping. So several years ago, Rocky Mountain Power entered what's called the energy imbalance market in California. So the top graph is how loaded the Huntington Power Plant was before entering the energy imbalance market. So it's a base load power plant. It stays pretty much near full capacity. After entering the energy imbalance market, you see that these plants are ramping pretty dramatically. So almost on a daily basis, you see power plants, well, on a daily basis, you see power plants ramping from very low load, so here 25%, I think you're probably going lower than that now, back up to full capacity. To me, this is actually tremendous. When I defended my dissertation, I had people tell me power plants can't do this, they can't ramp like this. So it's just a huge testament to the employees at Pacificor and Rocky Mountain Power that they've figured out how do you do this with these power plants. With this wave of renewables and this new energy landscape, your ability to ramp and to dispatch like that is becoming as valuable, if not more valuable, than the actual kilowatt hours that you're selling. So this is a cool story in a lot of ways, is that Emery County is selling this reliability to California. We have also got involved, so my previous slide was coal is helping renewables. We have been developing projects where AI can help coal to help renewables. So in this new landscape, when these coal power plants are ramping up and down, it's very difficult to manage these ramps and these transitions and to keep your emissions low and to keep your efficiency high. So one of my PhD students and a technology company came in, and we did this AI-based modeling of the plants. We've done this at both Huntington and Hunter, where you're using this AI model to sort of learn all the things that an operator could be doing. So an operator sitting at the control panel has on the order of like 100 different decisions they could be making. So that's way more than my brain can handle. I can't even remember the motto of states. But these AI-driven models can learn the relationships between this knob that you tweak and your efficiency or the NOx that you produce. So we have developed these models, and then we put them into closed loop where the model starts helping to control the plant, helps guiding. The operator is still in charge for sure, but this model is helping to maximize efficiency or to minimize NOx. So just looking at some of our results, so on the left is NOx per megawatt hour, on the right is how much fuel you're burning per megawatt hour. So in either case, the red dots represent this AI-based optimization system being turned on. The black represents it being turned off, and you can see it's really messy. And that's what's great about AI, is that despite this incredible messiness of the data, it can quote unquote learn these different relationships. And so turning the software on has pretty dramatically reduced NOx and helped improve the efficiency of our power plants. My former student took ownership of this technology company, and now he has got deployments of this software at, I think, around 30 power plants around the country, and he has his company headquartered in Orangeville, Utah, so that's just a fun part of the story. Okay, we have been expanding our work, so we're doing energy modeling, energy systems kind of work. We have partnered with economists at the University of Utah. Specifically, we're working with the Gardner Policy Institute, who do economic modeling. So we got a grant a couple of years ago from the Department of Energy to look at, well, we know there's a lot of pressure on these coal power plants and on coal mines. So, and there's lots of exploration. I love the initiatives that are being pursued around nuclear. I love that Valor is here and all this stuff is starting to really catch hold in people's minds. So what we're trying to do is say, okay, if you did a huge thing like this, like bring in a utility scale nuclear power plant, how does that impact your economy as a whole? So we have technical people that are looking at, okay, what does the construction timeline look like? What's the jobs profile of a nuclear power plant? Then the economists run these detailed models that show, okay, what are the trickle-down effects? So the power plant hires people, they get suppliers, the suppliers hire people, all of those people are going to stores and shops and buying homes and renting homes, so they have models that can capture a lot of this. So we looked at these various scenarios, and we are definitely not advocating for any particular policy. We're just trying to run the numbers and say, hey, throw us a scenario, and we'll tell you what we think the impact this would have on your economy. So we've looked at bringing in advanced nuclear with energy storage. So in particular, we're kind of modeling this after the natrium technology that Commissioner Warwood mentioned, with a sodium fast reactor with thermal energy storage. We've looked at critical minerals. This is a tough one because I showed you those images. There really needs just significant more investment to really know how deep that goes, what would the cost to extract be. But then we've looked at what are the economic impacts of solar. This is happening already, so we want to help quantify, okay, how does that impact your economy when it happens? A study that I'll show you in a few slides will be what would adding more solar look like? And then what would be the impact of advanced manufacturing? Advanced manufacturing is also, that could mean a whole bunch of different things, and depending on what your NAICS code is or what type of manufacturing you're doing, the economic multipliers are pretty dramatically different, but we're trying to model some of those things. So just to give you a sense of what the inputs look like. So one of my PhD students went through several months of painstaking effort to look at during the construction phase and then heading into the operation phase of a nuclear power plant. Here are the jobs that are being created while that power plant is being constructed. So it is really significant. So we're looking at 2,500 jobs here during the construction phase. So that would be a pretty significant economic challenge to deal with. I'd be really curious to go visit Kemmerer and see how they're handling this many people. And then it tapers off. Whoops. Can we go back? Red one. Oh, thanks. Okay. So then it tapers off into the operating phase there. So this nuclear power plant would have a long-lasting impact on jobs during the operation phase, but it's not quite as big as during that construction phase. Okay, the approach that we're taking to this whole project is we want to be very community engaged. So we interact a lot with the Carbon and Emery Economic Development Group that Emery Telecom supports. We want to get our results out there and get feedback, and we are still in the middle of doing that. We just got the latest round of economic modeling results, and we're still kind of pouring through them ourselves. So big caveat here, everything you're about to see, this is a draft. I have a cousin who helps with our family reunions, and she says if you complain about something, you just volunteered to do that something that you complained about. So I'm going to show you these results. We are looking for volunteers. We do anticipate having a draft finalized report with, like, I'm just giving you a sneak preview and it's not finalized, but we anticipate having a draft finalized report showing all the assumptions, all the modeling methodology, and we want to send that out to people before we make it public to say, what are we missing? Tell us. Like, we want to be very community engaged. This is your community. I'm certainly not like an ivory tower kind of guy. I want to be deeply engaged and be working with all of you because we don't know everything that's happening economically speaking. Okay, so notice again, draft results here. So this is how our outputs would look. On the y-axis here, this is change in Carbon and Emery economic output relative to a baseline. So the baseline basically assumes everything's happy and wonderful, the coal power plants stay open, the coal mines stay open, and you see kind of gradual economic growth. So this is how that would change with these different investments. So the first scenario, if there's no replacement for the coal power plants, we are projecting this is probably not breaking news to anybody, but we're projecting a pretty dramatic economic decline. What is on the y-axis here? This is a little bit hard to wrap your head around. Our report will have more details here. So this is millions of dollars of economic output. So this is a number that's actually bigger than GDP because this tracks all the internal economic spending that happens. So we anticipate a pretty dramatic decline. A huge part of this is because our current modeling is assuming that if the coal power plants shut down, that has a pretty dramatic negative impact on the mines. So if you try and take those power plants, and it's kind of hard to choose a basis here, the basis we chose was if we replaced the coal power plants, one of the scenarios we're looking at is replacing coal power with an additional 1,500 megawatts of solar. Oh, and we're going off of Rocky Mountain Power's last IRP, which had the plant slated for shutdown in the mid-2040s. So if you replaced coal with solar, this is the economic impact at 1,500 megawatts, so kind of a comparable order of magnitude to what the current coal plants are currently doing. So solar does certainly have an economic impact. Solar, if used appropriately and designed properly into your system, it can drive down the overall cost of energy. It's not huge in terms of the overall economic impact that it can have. So let's look at now what a nuclear power plant would do. So this is assuming you don't build this solar plant and instead you build a nuclear power plant. So here, you're doing this pre-planning, you're anticipating the coal plant's closing, so you start the construction of the nuclear several years in advance of that. So it does have this huge economic impact during that construction phase, and the assumption is that as the coal plants are tapering off, that is aligned with when the nuclear plant is starting to ramp up. So if you look over here, you can see this is a conclusion we feel pretty safe about right now, is that nuclear is just a much better job creator and a much better economic driver But you still notice that, again, according to these draft preliminary results, you're still in the negative compared to what you would be if you didn't have the nuclear power plant. So another scenario we're looking at is adding in advanced manufacturing. This is a scenario where Emery and Carbon County they bring in a manufacturer that would ultimately create 600 new jobs. So I guess the takeaway here, and this is, again, I feel comfortable saying this, and I'm super encouraged by all the things that are hearing, but we certainly recommend pursuing additional things. Even if you did land a big utility scale nuclear power plant, you're replacing the economic activity of power plants, but you're not necessarily replacing the economic activity of the mines. So we urge you to keep considering, go after those big manufacturers, keep growing what's happening at the research center, keep exploring additional outlets for coal, because we want to help and we want to make sure that good policy is based off of this. So again, shoot me an email if you want to see our draft report and want to be a part of reviewing everything that's going into here. We'd be really happy to collaborate with you. Okay, we have been, none of this happens in a vacuum, so Carbon and Emery County contribute to the grid, so investments that you make here in energy especially impact what's happening in the grid. So we've been sort of building out capacity. We've been really developing a close partnership with the Office of Energy Development. So this is Cindy that I was making fun of earlier for graduating from Texas A&M. She's amazing. So she's developing these modeling capabilities. We're getting our graduate research assistants who are digging deep into statewide modeling so we could look at, okay, if you did put a nuclear power plant in Castledale, Utah, how does that impact the whole grid? So we're looking at what are the grid implications of these local energy investments. What we want to do is we want to help out with planning for Operation Gigawatt. I try to follow this really closely. I'm super excited about this big initiative. I think it's really important for Utah. The University of Utah wants to be, we want to help do what we do, bring together technical experts from our university and from other places to help answer some of these questions. Certainly landing a big nuclear power plant would be awesome, but we really want to understand all the implications of that. How does that affect the grid? How does that affect the economy? Just knowing that, eyes wide open going in would be very helpful. Okay, so this is a kind of a hypothetical model. Cindy wanted me to use the word stylized. So this is what's called a capacity expansion model. This is a technology that is developed by the National Lab of the Rockies, where they can look at, for the entire country, up to county by county resolution. So they look at projected population growth, the projected energy consumption that comes from that population growth, and then they look at policies, individual policies in individual states and how that might impact the way things are happening. And then it's planning out, okay, based on this model, it optimizes to say, okay, what's our lowest cost of energy? What's our lowest cost to deliver this electricity to the whole country? So we are working with the state and zooming in on Utah and Emery County. The energy people in the room, we need to point this out. The way this model works is it assumes each county has a certain ability to generate power, and then it's looking at transmission on a county-to-county basis. It is not, so it looks at, for example, what's the total transmission capacity between Carbon and Emery County? It does not map the actual transmission lines. So you see where these lines come from are the center points of counties rather than where the actual transmission points are. And again, this is kind of hypothetical. This is a projection into the future, but this is capability that we're developing. So you can see what I love about this is that Emery County really is a cool, exotic place. It stands out as being this energy generation. You can kind of see the color of it changing as it goes from solar to coal, and that is a testament to these coal power plants are helping to flex, and they're helping to make sure that we keep putting out power even when the sun goes down. That technology that we explored, let me try this again so the video plays. Okay, there we go. So the Natrium technology could be a good fit for that reason because it has that built-in energy storage. So it can ramp up to, I believe, 500 megawatts and then ramp down to 150 megawatts while keeping the nuclear island running at full capacity. So kind of a cool technology. We are also looking at capacity expansion modeling nationally, just looking at, okay, what kind of policies would really drive energy? And I know it's a big room. So these are year by year, it's like periodic. So this is going from 2035 out to 2050, and this is what the capacity expansion model would predict happens if a technology like the natrium technology really takes off. So using a model like this, we can look at, okay, what should Utah be doing from a policy point of view to help attract these investments to come here? And we can look at, okay, how valuable is that energy storage? We can also look at how much do nuclear costs need to come down before this technology really gets adopted? Okay, I'm about to wrap up here. Carbon and Emery, these are takeaways. So we think Carbon and Emery County should, of course, keep doing what you're doing. Keep pursuing any and all venues to help boost the economy. So critical minerals exploration, continuing to find outlets for coal, looking into bringing in advanced manufacturing. These are all good things and probably very necessary things. We think this is a really crucial moment for Utah's energy infrastructure. We are an energy state. We want to stay that way. And personally, I think we all want to see Carbon and Emery County stay in that mix because this has been and remains such a big part of our economy. I also want to say at the University of Utah, and USU and everywhere, we want to be a resource. We want to help. So please feel free to reach out and talk to us about things. A lot of the projects that we've been working on have been inspired by feedback that we've gotten from our communities. We probably don't have a ton of time for questions, but feel free to shoot me an email. If you have any questions, if you want to see more detailed studies, or if you want to help us with our draft report. But huge thanks. I'm kind of the chief cat herder of this project, so we have just a ton of people helping and collaborating with us on all these various projects. So thank you very much for your time.
I was out of position. If this were a football game, I'd have been in trouble. I was definitely out of position at the back of the room. Thank you. Great job. That was a great presentation. Thanks so much. So we'll move into some talk on nuclear power. Nuclear power support services provided by High Tech Solutions. Today we do have Kurt Marlowe with us. Thanks, Kurt.
Okay. Isn't that a laser here?
Yeah, in case somebody gets out of line.
I can point the laser at, okay. I'll try to stay in front of the microphone. I'm kind of a walker, so. Kurt Marlowe, quick intro. I grew up in eastern Idaho, not too far from Idaho National Laboratory. You can't really grow up in eastern Idaho unless you spend a lot of time in a potato field. So spent a lot of time in potato fields, raised horses, in eastern Idaho, and I think the proximity to Idaho National Laboratory played a big role in kind of me getting into the nuclear industry in general. But the community that I grew up in outside of Blackfoot, Idaho looks astoundingly like Price, Utah. So as I drove into town today, I thought, yeah, this looks just like Blackfoot, Idaho. When we think about nuclear, I think one of the interesting things, and no matter where I go, especially in the Intermountain West, I think we kind of have this attitude that nuclear is something that's coming, something that's on the horizon, something that's out there. But part of what I want to emphasize today is that nuclear is happening. It's been happening. We're very experienced. It's a very experienced technology. It's something that I will say is, for our company, we have some of the lowest liability insurance rates in the country because we work in the safest industry in the entire country. So that piece of being able to say that we have independent insurance people who look at what we do and they say, this is incredibly safe. You have the lowest accidents rates of any other service industry in the United States. And that really is a tribute to the fact that we've gotten very, very good at building, operating, and maintaining nuclear power plants. So if you look at the current industry right now, about $100 billion of new investment coming into the nuclear industry. And so I think one of the things that I want to focus on today is what does that mean specifically for this region? And so we're going to talk a lot about national and international nuclear, but I really want to bring that conversation back to what does that mean for carbon in Emery County. The current fleet right now is 97 gigawatts. When we start talking megawatts and gigawatts and kilowatts, sometimes that kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense if you're not in that space on a day-to-day basis. But 97 gigawatts is how much electricity that we're currently producing in the United States from nuclear. That makes up about almost 20% of the electricity production in the United States. It's a big reason why when you talk about outages in the United States, the central United States never has that issue. And a big part of that is that operating plants that exist primarily in the central United States. The target that we have for the SMR 300, the reactor that we're proposing to bring to Utah, is about 10 gigawatts. So those are large-scale projects. Those are large-scale plants. These are grid-scale projects. These are not really what you would consider a traditional small modular reactor. They're modular, but they're not small. So these are 300 megawatt plants when they're air-cooled. So we're seeing right now it's something that you guys are experiencing, which is this huge tailwind behind the nuclear industry. I've been waiting my entire 30-year career to get some reactors built and get some projects done. For the first time in my career, I'm seeing bipartisan support across all of the Senate and the House, the current administration, the previous administration, probably the future administrations that have been very supportive of the industry. The question is, why are we not doing more projects? So historically, people used to ask me the question, why would you build nuclear? Now the question I get all the time is, why are we not building nuclear? And many of you may have heard that same comment. So, you know, this huge amount of investment coming primarily from, you know, we think of a lot of AI and data centers, but I will tell you in Utah, and especially in the Intermountain West, we simply have an energy problem, right? So it's not about, hey, how many data centers can I get? We have the issue right now in Utah that Utah used to be a net exporter of energy. That's no longer the case. Utah now imports energy. That's shocking. That should be, especially from an energy county, that should be really surprising, right? When you're sitting on coal plants that are base load generation, when you have the opportunity to have a very supportive public that would love to see more energy projects. So for us, that's one of the main focuses, is to change Utah into being a net exporter of power. I truly believe Utah should be essentially powering a huge portion of your neighbors, right? You've got neighbors in California, Washington, Colorado that are not interested in building energy projects. They're having a hard time siting those projects. So from my perspective, I think having Utah be able to essentially export power to those states, a huge opportunity. National security, we think of energy security equals national security. It's a comment that you'll hear from both elected officials, certainly from Governor Cox as part of the Operation Gigawatt projects. And then this idea of fleet life extensions. So what we're seeing across the entire nuclear fleet is that these plants are being operated much, much longer. The initial permits and licenses were for 40 years. They're now going to 80 years, and there's conversation about having those go to 100 years. So the other big push right now that we're involved with every single one of what we call the restarts. These are plants that have been shut down and are now being restarted. So those plants like Palisades, Duane Arnold in Iowa, those projects are rapidly underway with a big push actually from the current administration. So when we think about how do we actually get this done, I really want to talk just quickly about what we do as a company. So we have 3 divisions. We have High-Tech Solutions, this reactor RSI that does more of our welding programs, and then NRS that is focused on machining, engineering, and some of those things. About 700 plus, we ramp up to almost 1,000 employees with our union employees out in the field. About 23 years of experience doing this. We're at 90% retention. That's primarily because a lot of folks go from outage to outage. We keep most of our people year-round, so we aren't a body shop. We don't hire people part-time. Our employees stay with us full-time. And we service about 80% of the reactors in the United States. We've got a team right now in South Africa. We just finished up in Brazil. We've got people in Mexico, the UK, and then we just have a new contract in Switzerland. So as far as servicing reactors, we've seen pretty much every reactor there is in existence at this point. So we train those people, we service those reactors, we touch fuel across the entire fuel cycle. And then in the US, 85 plus of the 96 reactors that are in operation. So we're really one of, I would say, only 4 companies, and probably the only company that touches every aspect of the reactor fuel. So as that fuel is actually made, we take that new fuel and we put it in the reactor. We take the old fuel, we take it out of the reactor, we put it in spent fuel pools, we put it in permanent canisters for storage. A lot of companies work on the front end of that process. A lot of companies work on the back end. We're really the only company in the United States that touches that fuel all the way through the cycle, as well as servicing the reactors themselves. So that life cycle control piece, mobile workforce. So one of the pieces that I want to talk about today is the fact that we have folks who we train up and we send them out to reactors, and they service reactors all over the place. They do a lot of traveling. Our goal in the Intermountain West is to take Utah kids, train them out in the workforce, out in the reactors, bring them home to work on Utah reactors. We want to be able to have a fleet of reactors in the Intermountain West, so we don't have to ship people over to the East Coast and to the Midwest on a regular basis. This idea of being focused on specific technology. It would be great for us to be able to service every reactor and every type of reactor, but we know that in order to build a fleet of reactors, we're going to have to team up with established companies who have been doing this a long time. So those partnerships with Westinghouse, Framatome, Holtec, those are all companies who've been servicing the nuclear industry for a very long time. And then we spend a lot of time working on new tooling. You can imagine that if you roll into a reactor and you have a particular problem, on a regular basis, we have to kind of invent a tool that is able to do something that has never been done before as far as removing a component. A lot of that work has to be done remotely. A lot of that work has to be done robotically. So we hire a lot of people. I would say probably 70% of our staff do not have bachelor's degrees. So a lot of technicians, a lot of folks wearing hard hats, operating cranes, operating heavy equipment, making very, very good money in the nuclear industry. So trying to take this from like, what do we need from a foundational perspective all the way up to actually getting projects done. The foundation of this is workforce. We talked a lot about, you've heard Utah State talk a lot about that. We have some deep partnerships with the universities, a lot of the trade schools in Utah. And the difference is, I would say for us, these are not work jobs. These are not jobs that we need someday. Last year, we were 300 people short of staffing what we needed to do on outages. Like, we needed 300 people last year. This year, that'll probably be closer to 400 or 500 people. So those are welders, heavy equipment operators, boiler operators, I&C people, all the way up to nuclear engineering, site licensing, the entire gamut of people that we need. Everything from 6-month certificates in welding all the way up to, master's degrees in nuclear engineering potentially. So that workforce and training piece for us becomes really the foundation. We can't build a fleet of reactors, and we simply can't rely on the fact that if you look at the East Coast, you're going to see a number of what we call AP1000s. Those Westinghouse big plants are going to be announced in the next few years. So the workforce, that everything east of the Mississippi is going to be completely gobbled up. That means we're viewing the Western fleet as we have to be autonomous. We have to be able to service and build and construct those reactors with West people. So that means that I can't call Bechtel, I can't call Kiewit and say, hey, can you bring all your Kansas City crew out here? Because the Kansas City crew will already be on projects. So thinking ahead and thinking about how many people we're going to need is fairly staggering. Obviously, the QA that goes into nuclear is very distinct, right? So when we think about folks who have experience, let's say in a coal-fired boiler, that's incredibly applicable. We just kind of have to upskill that to add in a coal-fired boiler plus kind of the nuclear standards and the nuclear QA that goes with that. Inspectance, maintenance, fuel operations, those are all things that, you know, if you look around and you look at mining people, you look at coal-fired operations, those are almost a one-to-one match for what we need in the nuclear industry. This engineering and innovation piece, again, rolls back into the workforce piece to be able to hire, you know, talented graduates who are capable of doing engineering at a nuclear scale. And then finally, the manufacturing construction. You saw from some of the economic models that staggering peak during construction. That really is going to be overwhelming. That means that the communities, you know, it's great to create jobs, and a lot of times I see mayors look at those numbers and go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with 1,500 new people from an infrastructure perspective? So beginning to start having those conversations of what does that mean for roads, for housing, for schools, for everything that comes with that, obviously, that affects you as a community. And then finally, actually getting to the nuts and bolts of developing the project. And this is kind of where we are rolling up right now with some of our current announcements. So for Carbon and Emery counties, the real takeaway is that we need staff now. We need folks who are talented in being able to do this, whether that means, you know, working with the team at Snow College on welding, working with USU on some of the energy studies work that they're doing. All of those are folks that we can use fairly quickly. And so, you know, the question of how do I translate what people are doing in school and what they're getting an education in, and what does that mean in the industry? That's the part that we're working with the schools right now on. So for us, we made an announcement, some of you may be aware, back in November, we announced that we were going to be siting a project in Brigham City. That's not just, you know, I think it's easy to attach to the announcement of a reactor, but I think it's really important to understand that we're talking about an ecosystem. So that means we need manufacturing, we need training, and we need to build the reactors. And so that announcement was that we were going to build the SMR 300. The reason it's called an SMR 300 is because it makes about 300 megawatts of electricity. They usually come in pairs, which means that most of our projects are going to be 600 megawatts to 1,200 megawatts. So in other words, we'll be installing either 2 or 4 units at most of our projects. That puts us, you know, 1,200 megawatts puts us kind of on par with IPP, Hunter, some of the other major power plants that are around. So once we get into the 1,200 to 2,000 megawatt range, we're true baseload grid power. For Utah, this really means that you know, we have communities now that I think are missing out on economic development opportunities because they simply can't get electricity. You know, a community like Brigham City has had 2 or 3 companies come to them. When you think about Intermountain Electronics and some of the other companies that Nucor Steel that have been asking for power that simply can't get electricity. And I think this opportunity for the communities to take charge of their own generation, for a community to say, we would like to not be beholden to the utility all the time. In other words, we don't want to come kneeling before Rocky Mountain Power and say, can you please provide us power? We're going to build our own projects. And I think that's the empowering ability that we have now. You know, I think both the legislature has helped facilitate that. as well as the governor's programs as well. So when you think about Hunter, for example, I'll just use that as an example, and this is true of all of the plants. These plants have an amazing amount of infrastructure. When you think about, everything from a switch yard to the substation to the transmission lines, all of those things create this amount of infrastructure that say, why are we not exporting more power out of these locations, right? Which means co-locating a coal plant and a nuclear plant begin to really make sense. It's much, much easier to take a substation and add some capacity than it is to build a new substation. So I think this interest that you're going to see from having a co-located nuclear projects along with the coal projects, I think is a very interesting aspect, because when you think about, whether that's a Green River project, a Hunter or an IPP project, all of those sites have real opportunity to provide power both to the Wasatch Front as well as externally to the other states. So right now, the current status of the project, the MOU is signed with the state of Utah, the MOU with Holtec. We're working on right now on the manufacturing piece, actually getting the manufacturing piece sited, as well as the training facility. Those will be the first two things that will go up. Putting together some natural gas projects. So pretty much every one of our projects will have some natural gas bridge, which will be the front end of those projects. We know we can stand up a large-scale gas project in about 24 months. When we look at the nuclear projects, those are more on the 5 to 6 year time frame. So right now, the nuclear project, early 2030s, when we're talking about having the first nuclear projects really ramping up. And that, looking at other sites. So again, it really makes no sense for us to build a single project. When you think about the cost of nuclear, which is, something that I think gets brought up on a regular basis, where we begin to see a huge amount of savings on those projects is when we tie those projects together and we start thinking about this, what we call a fleet approach, where we've got 6 to 8 projects going simultaneously, and we get to take advantage kind of that scale. So yeah, just quickly, just going through jobs exist today. We've got people that are being trained right now. One of the biggest reasons we want to build a training facility in Utah is that those kind of training facilities don't exist west of the Mississippi. So if I want to train my people today, I send them to Lynchburg, Virginia. I send them to Charlotte, North Carolina. I send them to all of these other places. And so one of the things that we want to do is prioritize Utah as a place for those training facilities. And so when you think about what is a training facility, it isn't a room like this. It's actually a nuclear reactor. So we build a non-operating spent fuel pool, 60-foot pool of water with a bridge crane over the top of it. And we train people how to retrieve fuel, how to load fuel, how to operate the equipment. And then we qualify and certify them on those job skills so that they can then go out to the industry and perform those. So for us, I look at Carbon and Emery as a huge opportunity to partner. That may be taking our training facility that we have planned for Brigham City, partnering with Utah State to bring training here to Carbon and Emery County, in partnership with Utah State Eastern. So those are all, to me, those are all great opportunities. Our current project right now in Brigham City, we're using, actually Utah State has a secret weapon. Utah State might have the most talented seismic analysis folks in the world that I know of. So Dr. Brady Cox is in high demand. He goes to Michigan, to Poland, all over the world to do some of the seismic analysis. So some of that characterization work is work that we're doing with Utah State right now. Just an infographic on looking at some of the different statistics that we have in the nuclear industry. We use a program very similar to Intermountain Electronics called SkillBridge. We hire a lot of veterans really a critical piece for us. So we take a lot of, it just so happens that when you take someone who's worked in the Navy nuclear industry or in the Air Force, that translates very well into the nuclear industry. So we hire a lot of veterans for that reason. So talking through the skills crossover that we mentioned, when you think about some of these skills that exist in Carbon and Emery County today, and how do we translate them into the nuclear industry? You can think of it as upskilling or trade skilling, specific for the nuclear industry. The CERT campus that I mentioned is a project that we're putting together for this specific training facility. CERT stands for Clean Energy Research and Training. That'll have a number of both private and public partnerships with some of the universities, with other private companies that will all come together basically to work on that CERT facility. And just a quick picture of kind of what the vision of that CERT facility will look like eventually. Building the base load power for the state of Utah is, for me, it's really not just an optional thing. I think you've seen what the potential is for some of the communities when we have the opportunity to bring projects to the communities. So for us, when I get the question, and I have done this presentation obviously in different parts of Utah, and usually I get the question of, great, what do we need to do? We need to find land, we need to find offtake, we need to find transmission, we need to find all the parts and pieces. Sometimes that's water, sometimes that's workforce. But putting those packages together in partnership with the communities is really our goal. It's something that I've been passionate about for more than 30 years of getting projects built, getting something in the ground and actually operating. And I think we're beginning to see the parts and pieces kind of come together at this point to be able to do that. So the workforce partnerships and the site infrastructure conversations that need to happen, these are projects that we don't want to foist on communities. These are projects that we want communities to ask for. So we want the communities to actually come up and say, that's the type of offtake, that's the type of manufacturing, that's the type of energy generation that we want in our community. So for us, those are the communities that we're really looking for. And then that ability to build enough of an ecosystem that we can keep that workforce here in Utah full time. So a few minutes for questions. Anybody has anything?
How are the nuclear plants being financed? How are you paying for the nuclear plant? You talk about the cost and ratepayers, businesses, how's that coming?
So for us, that means a combination of multiple things, right? That's private capital coming together, but it primarily, that private capital is asking for a power purchase agreement, right? So that power purchase agreement may come from Nucor, may come from Hill Air Force Base, it may come from a data center, it may come from a lot of pieces, but there is no shortage, I will say, of capital. So I will say that it is staggering to see the amount of investors beating down our door asking, can we invest in a project? All they're asking for is letters of intent and power purchase agreements to back that.
So how fast can these units ramp up and down, these nuclear power plants? I mean, Cody gave us a great picture of the power plants, our coal-fired power plants, ramping because of, the solar and wind coming in. How fast can a nuclear ramp up and down?
So the Holtec, one of the benefits of the Holtec plant is that they use what's called a green boiler technology. It's very similar to what TerraPower does. So they basically are sitting on 12 hours of power in an existing boiler. So yeah, that can ramp instantaneously pretty much. So yeah, very quickly. So yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the challenges that large power plants have had historically is that turbines don't do well going up and down, right? And so they've had to be really, really creative on how they've figured out technology to be able to do that, because they just haven't had a choice. So in the nuclear industry, it's this kind of like heat storage, some form of heat storage. TerraPower uses sodium, Holtec uses water and steam.
Yeah, how much contiguous land do you need for your SMR 300?
So for a dual unit, a 2-unit is about 50 acres. So that's 600 megawatts in 50 acres. When you know, we brag all the time in the nuclear industry, there just is simply no other technology that has this kind of energy density, right, from a land use perspective. So yeah, I can put 1.2 gigawatts on 100 acres.
I like what you're saying, and I like how it sounds, but how realistic is it for us?
That's a good question. Trust me, I've spent 30 years in the back of the room going, what about this? What about this, right? I'm as jaded as they come after 30 years of being beat down by all the reasons you can't do nuclear. So I will say for us, I think it's having communities, having a state, having a legislature, having the parts and pieces to be able to force to will these projects into existence. Because there is no magic pot of money at the end of the rainbow. Like, these are generational projects. So when I look at these projects and say, are they going to be painful? Yes. Are they going to be expensive? Yes. But are my grandchildren going to work there? Absolutely. Right? These are 80 to 100-year projects. So I think that's the change in mindset. Do you want an energy project that's probably great for the first 5 or 10 years? Or do you want an energy project that really the big benefit comes at year 30, 40, 50, 60, 70? I think for me, that's the realistic piece. So right now, does Emery and Carbon County need 300 megawatts of power? I don't know. That's a good question. Do you want to generate enough economic development to need 300 megawatts? Or do you want to sell power to Colorado and help develop a transmission line that gets you to Grand Junction or to the Vegas market? I think that's the other question, right?
Kurt, maybe mention the timeline with Palisades and what Holtec's doing there.
Yeah, I would say one of the other exciting parts for us is that we're not the guinea pig. So Holtec will be building units 1 and 2 in Palisades, Michigan. Palisades, just across the way from their SMR project, is the existing Palisades nuclear plant. Holtec is also restarting that plant. So for us to be what I would call a fast follower, that term of being able to say, hey, I'm going to literally have my project managers at the Palisades project. They've already broke ground. They've put in a road. They just got their phase 1 license approved for that Palisades project. So about 2 years from now, they'll have their construction license for that Palisades project, and we want in Utah to be right on their heels. We want to be able to basically take all those lessons learned from that Palisades project and apply that to the Utah projects.
Yes, you mentioned you want to co-locate with their already coal-based, and our area is, of course, limited on water. And so a thermal unit, when they use condensers, usually have a consumption of about 10 gallons per minute per megawatt. As a rule of thumb. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you were going to use air-cooled. And so can you draw a comparison there and, what we would have to do in order to have enough water in order to be able to site these plants?
Yeah, so you get, and it's, just a rule of thumb, but the ability for the air-cooled condensers, one of the other huge benefits for Holtec is Holtec makes air-cooled condensers. They're a thermal, heat transfer company. That's what they do. So they're probably the second or third largest air-cooled condenser manufacturer in the world. And so for them, that means taking from, let's say, from 10,000 gallons an hour down to 10,000 gallons a day. That's basically the difference you're getting from, you know, a cooling tower versus air-cooled condensers. So it's about a factor of 24.
You mentioned the benefits of multiple projects going on. I was just kind of curious what discussions or you know, work has been talked about over on the other side of the hill in Uintah County.
Lots of conversations for sure. Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, Duchesne County is an area that has a lot of promise as well, right? And you're going to see different potential customers over there, right? So oil and gas in the Uintah Basin may be a big customer. You may see people say, well, gosh, if I had power, I'd put together a refinery project, or I'd put together, you know, some other opportunity for offtake. So I think having you think as a community and say, you know, what projects would I like? What economic development could I attract if I had power? If I had power at that scale, right? But yeah, I mean, other than a few NDAs, I mean, we're just starting conversations with the Uintah folks.
I was just wondering, what made Brigham City the most suitable spot in Utah for your project?
I think right now, I think it's the need. I think it's the power need. So for us, it was the fact that they were turning down economic development projects consistently for lack of power.
So as you talk about cost of nuclear, I mean, here in our area and through Utah, you know, the National Laboratory wanted to build a nuclear reactor up there, and several cities in Utah were going to participate buying that electricity, but the cost shot that project down. And as I'm thinking about this, the cost for that energy, these new SMRs versus the old traditional nuclear, how does that comparison in cost per megawatt?
Yeah, I was fairly deeply involved in that project. So yeah, I mean, I think one of the challenges that we have in the nuclear industry is that we haven't built these projects. And so what you were seeing on the NuScale project is that as the estimates came in, they just kept going up, right? So the level 5 estimate came in, and the city said, oh, absolutely, we'll buy power at that rate. And then the way the contract was structured, those cities were stuck, right? To the point that they had to literally bow out one by one until the project didn't financially make sense anymore. So that ability to, in my opinion, when you think about building grid scale projects, you should be thinking about creative customers, right? We do not want these projects to be on the backs of the ratepayers. We want these projects to be subsidized by the AI companies, by the manufacturing companies, by the other states around you. And I think you're in a really unique position to be able to say, how in the world can I get these projects built so that I've got 100 years worth of base load electricity, but I have customers who are willing to pay a premium. There are customers today who are willing to pay much more than you're paying for electricity. Would you agree? California's paying 3x. Las Vegas is paying 2x. The Denver Basin is paying 2x. So I look at that and say, should the priority be in concert with, it's great to build a project, but if I don't have the transmission, so I think, in my opinion, building the transmission is almost as important as the generation itself. Thanks.
Excellent job, thank you. I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of an update on kind of the things that we have coming up. We have 2 more speakers. We'll jump to one here momentarily, and then we'll actually grab our lunch and come back in. The final one will be remote, so we're trying to not hold you guys from that lunch. We'll bring it back in for the final one. I really want to thank Matt Morgan and Seth Majors at the back of the room. They make this whole thing look professional. They put all this work together. They spend lots of hours making this work well, so thank you to Seth and Matt. Also, yeah, thank you guys. They do a ton. Big Mo's done the lunch for today. They done some deli sandwiches. We had them put those together. If you guys have ever ate at Big Mo's, local place, they brought the lunch to us today, and we'll get to that. So thank you to Big Mo's. I also want to mention Kurt Rasmussen has been to every one of these meetings. He's the superintendent for urban oil, gas, and mining here in Carbon and Emery counties. He speaks at a lot of meetings locally and does a great job as a superintendent. Over 900 wells that they're producing right here. So Kurt, thanks for always being here. Thank you. Sorry, so with that, we'll move forward. We've all heard about the modular nuclear reactor. We have an update on that for today. It's going to be by Corey Gardner with Valor Atomics. Thank you, Corey.
Cool. Good almost afternoon, 1 minute, everybody. Thank you to SERDA for inviting me, for being here. I was going to talk about a couple things today, and I think based off what I heard, I need to completely change what I was going to talk about. First of all, I want to apologize. I am one of the California refugees here, but I did bring rain with me today. So thank you all for inviting me, but I did bring the rain. I want to start off by saying thank you to the state and the counties of Emery and Carbon, but also the community for inviting us here. We would not have been able to move as quickly as we have without that support up and down throughout the community. Just a few weeks ago, we had an open house event at our reactor showroom, is what I call it, and about 400 members from Emery and Carbon showed up to tour our reactor facility as we're finishing construction. We're going to talk about all that here today. Before I do, I want to read a quick stat of a presentation that I was reading the other day. It's going to blow your mind, but maybe you already know this since we're all kind of close to the energy space here. Between 2010 and 2024, China outpaced U.S. installed electrical capacity by a factor of 9. By 2040, they're projected to outpace our installed capacity by a factor of 7.5. The time is now for us to be working on these problems, but if we wait until the 2030s, 2040s to turn on additional generation capacity, we're going to be well far behind. This is a matter of national security, and Emery and Carbon are energy communities. This is where this should be happening, and fortunately with Valor Atomics, it's where it is happening. What you're looking at here is our thermal prototype. This is a real photo. I'm going to make a second apology. I have no renderings, drawings, stats, or graphs, but I have real photographs of hardware that we're actually building about 40 miles south at the Utah San Rafael Energy Lab. We are preparing to turn on a small modular nuclear reactor. It's a high temperature gas reactor. We designed it in about 10 months in our garage in Los Angeles, and we've been testing it for the last 16 months. We just flew it on a C-17 with the Department of War from Utah, or from California to Utah a couple of weeks ago to Hill Air Force Base, and then caravanned it down to San Rafael. So what you're looking at, this is this reactor is for Department of War purposes, but it's a 5 megawatt electric reactor, high temperature gas reactor. It requires no water for cooling. And we're getting ready to turn it on under the Department of Energy Advanced Reactor Pilot Program. President Trump signed orders last May to advance and start and turn on nuclear in America before July 4th. We answered those orders, and we're moving very quickly to do so. And so our team has been working 25/8 for the last 3 years to design, build, implement, and operate system safety protocols, actually test the reactor. I'll show you some photos here in just a little bit. I worked night shift as an SRO, senior reactor operator, before we had fuel, testing the actual reactor components to learn how it all worked. Obviously, some of you may know Jess Housekeeper is on our team. He's leading our Utah site operations and reactor operations for this reactor. I don't think he's in any of these photos, but he's a great guy. Get to know him. And so, as I step through these photos, this is it's a pretty dumb reactor. What's kind of the Toyota Corolla of reactors. It's pretty cheap. It's pretty simple. An internal combustion engine is way more complicated than this reactor, and we're getting ready to turn it on very soon under the Department of Energy and President Trump's orders. And we'd like to continue to do so in Carbon and Emery County. This is the center of the universe for us. and it just simply would not have been possible without your all support. So this is what it looks like. It fits in a 20-foot isoframe, 20-foot shipping container. That's why we flew it on a C-17 to demonstrate America's warfighter ability to deploy power rapidly at the edge, anywhere. We've demonstrated that. So here's actually, I took these photos. This is from like 2 a.m. There's Jess Housekeeper on the left talking about neutronics, teaching me. I'm the dumb engineer, or not, I'm the dumb guy. The engineers are smart. They're working on the reactor right now. That's why they sent me versus somebody else. We need to turn this thing on. The big thing that nobody knows, we did make some announcements, but we've actually already gone critical. We went critical at the Nevada National Security Site in November last year. We did 36 core configurations and experiments and tests that validated the Ward 250, that's the name of this reactor, the Ward 250 core configuration. And so we did all the thermal prototype testing in California. We took the core critical at Nevada National Security Site, and now we're getting ready to, we're finishing actually putting it all back together, receive fuel, and turn it on right here at SREL. This is the Operation Windlord, where we flew the reactor from California to Hill. That was an amazing operation. It could not have gone better. We took 3 birds, and those things are massive. It had, each one of them carried 3 20-foot isoframe containers. So our entire, forward deployed reactor system, this 5 megawatt version, fits in about 9 of those modules. It can be deployed anywhere. As we look to commercialize, the reactor will be about 1.8 times the size, so 25 isoframe, multiply it by 1.8, and you get 5x the power output. You get 25 megawatts electric. And again, this is a high temperature gas reactor. We use no water. Little road show in front of the state capitol building. That was like 6:45 a.m. was the only time we could get them to shut down the road for us. This is a photo taken about 7 months ago down at San Rafael. There was a patch of dirt. We broke ground, and I'm going to show you a video here in just a second of what that process was. And some of the folks are actually in the room here today that are in that photo. Once again, want to thank the community and the state for your support. Would not have been possible without you. But in those 7 months, we've gone from a patch of dirt to a reactor building, which I'll show you here in a second. We installed this reactor, about a month and a half ago, and we're getting ready to turn it on right now. And I have a quick video here for you that's way more impressive than me speaking. I apologize, I'm speaking very fast. I want to be respectful of the next speaker's time and your all time today. I'm going to hang out after. You're probably going to have a lot of questions. I won't be able to get super technical with you, but I can talk about generally a lot of these concepts and what our plans for commercialization are, why we're here in Carbon and Emery, and what we want to continue to do in the state of Utah. So feel free to grab me. If you see somebody else with a shirt on, you can talk to them or ask for my contact info. I'll be around. I'm also going to the San Rafael Energy Lab after this. I'll be there for the rest of the day. So if you'd like to see a reactor that we're going to turn on very soon here in Emery, open invite to have you down. And here's a quick video.
As a private company, how does an SMR get deployed in the real world?
We're rethinking the reactor. We're making the reactor smaller, safer, more modular.
And we've never built a modular Gen 4 SMR in the United States.
We want to build many of these reactors in a row, which means that we're learning how to do scaled construction in our first small step.
We really have to understand what those lead times are. What is the lead time? Is it actually a physical component, or is it going to be some paperwork or some bureaucracy? So we need to not just accept the status quo of, well, that thing takes 6 months to get to us.
Yep.
And perhaps we can leverage some of the relationships that we've already built. The water, the power, the fuel, all that stuff.
We're just trying to pour mass concrete in here and get this thing backfilled as quick as we possibly can.
We recognize that America has forgotten how to build nuclear reactors. Valor Atomics is going back to ground zero. We're rebuilding nuclear from the ground up because that's what it takes. What the Valor team and Kiewit and Wallem, all the guys here have done in the last 3 months since our groundbreaking. We're here pouring 400 more yards of concrete. We've designed almost an acre of finished square feet, processed 40,000 cubic yards of material. We have over 400 trucks worth of concrete in the ground here, 45 more going in the ground today.
There's real live learning happening on the ground on exactly what does a modern advanced reactor Gen 4 nuclear site look like.
It's not just who can turn on a reactor, it's who will build the infrastructure to power the country.
What does power demand from AI mean for the power sector, and how do we make it clean, reliable, and cheap? I think it's the story of the decade.
Who's investing in the land, the people, the actual business of nuclear, not theory. That's who's going to win.
Thank you. Quick closing remarks. In the 1970s, the cost of energy was decreasing and nuclear was one of the cheapest forms of energy. And we had a decision to make. We were either going to lean into nuclear and continue building coal. And ironically, we decided to do neither. We litigated coal out of existence and we regulated nuclear out of existence. Today, we have another decision to make, and we believe Emery and Carbert are making the right decision with nuclear. Thank you.
Very well done. That was fantastic. Thank you. Let's grab our lunch. As I mentioned, we'll try and be as efficient as we can. I'll have to interrupt you again, but go out, grab your lunch, come back in, and we'll get Brian ready to go for the next talk.
Okay, microphone check for Google Meet. Brian, can you hear me? And then I need to get you.
Hey, Matthew, this is Brian. I can hear you.
Excellent, Brian. We can hear you as well. So we are ready to go for you when you are, and you're okay to just share your presentation through the Google Meet?
I think so. Let me try it right now. I mean,
Perfect.
Unfortunately, I'm on an iPad, so it's a little wonky.
Okay,
But
microphone
see if
check
you can-
for Google Meet. Brian, can you hear me? And then I need to
Can you see anything there? Hey, Matthew, this is Brian. I can hear you.
Excellent, Brian. We can hear you as well. So we are ready to go for you when you are, and you're okay to just share your presentation through the Google Meet?
I think so. Let me try it right now. I mean,
Perfect.
Unfortunately, I'm on an iPad, so it's a little wonky. Hey, Matt,
Okay,
can you see
microphone
that?
check. Okay.
Can you see
I can
anything
see
there?
your presentation, but we have an audio technical issue, Brian, we need to figure out. Excellent, So Brian. We can we're hear going to you figure as that well. out, and we'll be right back. So
Okay.
We are ready to go for you when you are, and you're okay to just share your presentation through the Google Meet?
I think so. Let me try it right now. I mean,
Perfect.
unfortunately, I'm on an iPad, so it's a little wonky. Hey, Matt, can you see that?
Check. Check, check. Okay.
Can you see
I can
anything
see
there?
your presentation, but we have an audio technical issue, Brian, we need to figure out.
Excellent,
So
Brian.
we're going to figure that out, and we'll be right back. So
Okay.
we are ready to go for you when you are, and you're okay to just share your through the Google Meet?
I think
Audio check. All right, Brian, can you hear us?
Hey, sorry, were you asking for me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're waiting to see. We had a loop, an audio loop on our side. I'm waiting to see that has resolved. So it sounds like it has. And if you can hear us, I can see your screen. Let me rejoin the meeting, and then we'll make sure we're okay. Stand by.
Okay, I mean, your audio's a little muddled, but I can hear you.
Yeah, we had to change our audio source. So as long as you can at least hear us, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, audio check, 1, 2. Okay. We are ready for Brian to present. Brian, you are ready to go. Brian, are you there? Okay, Brian, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, excellent. Brian, we're ready to go for you, so you can go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Brian Summers, Utah Mining Association. I'm sorry, my camera and my presentation don't work at the same time, so sorry to only have one or the other, but I appreciate the opportunity to present today. I'm sorry I'm not there with you, not really because I'm in the Caribbean with my family, but Jade and Jerry asked me to do this quite a while ago, and I wanted to make sure that I fulfilled the obligation, so here I am. I'm going to start by just going over a few of the bills that we were working on in this last legislative session. I know you already got a little bit of an update from Representative Watkins and Senator Hinkins, but just wanted to talk through some of the bills that we were working on that are important to the mining industry. Just to give you a sense of, I don't know if the legislators went through this already, but they keep breaking their own records, which is really exciting. So this year we had 1,506 bill requests, over 1,000 bills, 1,016 bills numbered. Of those, 761 bills were substituted, and then ultimately they passed 542, which was not a record, which was nice. But yeah, keep getting more bill requests and bills numbered, so a lot that we have to track and work on. We have a legislative committee that we do in conjunction with Utah Petroleum Association, so we had 155 bills that we were tracking this year. And just to give you a sense, we try not to take too many high-profile oppose or support positions, but we did take a few. Of the 9 bills where we had a high-profile opposed position, only 1 of those passed. The 14 bills where we had high-profile support, 10 of those passed, and a few of those were tax bills that we supported, but then when other things happened on the tax front, those bills went away, and then had a pretty good record with our low-profile oppose and support bills as well. And then we're constantly working with legislators to try and fix bills so that we don't have to oppose them, or and that we can support what they're doing there, and we've got a good track record with that as well. So I won't go through all of these, but I just did want to talk about a few bills that didn't pass that we were very excited that didn't pass. The first was HB 161, and there was also a resolution that went along with that, and this would have increased property taxes for business owners, which was a huge problem for a lot of our members that are large taxpayers. Also, SB 211 tort amendments. This was something that, again, was going to be a problem for a lot of our members because they do have a high level of self-insurance, and this was going to potentially raise their premiums. A few different bills that we're trying to get standards for non-compete amendments that were going to be hard for our industry, or setting kind of Davis-Bacon wage standards that were going to potentially raise prices for a lot of our folks. Definitions of nuisances that were problematic, and then also this bottom one here, HB 264 pollution standard amendments. This is there's a bill like this every session. There's a group out, an advocacy group that always tries to get the legislature to set pollution targets instead of doing those through the normal regulatory process. And this was another one that we had to defeat. We've tried to fix these in past years, but this year we just had it held in rules and killed it because it's not good policy. So a few things that did pass that we were excited about. Great Salt Lake funding amendments. This was something where we worked with bill sponsors to try and make sure that the money that we got in the last session that's going into the species protection account didn't go away. So we did, this was basically going to take some of the money that the species protection account got from the brine shrimp industry and put it into other accounts for projects on the Great Salt Lake, and we just had to make sure that there was a little bit of a buffer there so that some of the new revenues that are coming into that account hit before we lose that brine shrimp money. Fugitive dust mitigation amendments, this was something where some of the definitions in this, that was primarily targeted at the aggregates industry were going to be problematic for mining and oil and gas, and so we're able to get some language limiting the scope of that bill. And then this is one that we're very excited about, HB 437, environmental permitting amendments. This actually allows for some accelerated permitting processes that both DOGM and the Division of Environmental Quality are going to be using by using outside reviewers to speed up permitting processes, and this just makes sure that they have all the statutory authority to do that. And then a few bills, especially ones that were run by Representative Albrecht and Representative Jack, that give some better protections for frivolous lawsuits, environmental lawsuits. And basically, most of these bills just say that if there's an operator who is following their state-issued permits or state-issued rules, that they can't be taken to court for greenhouse gas emissions or other things like that that are not based on actual violations of law. Two bills here at the bottom that I want to talk about that didn't pass, unfortunately. One was HB 224, electricity rate amendments, and this was going to fix the energy balancing account that has grown pretty substantially since it was instituted about a decade ago, and we're seeing a lot of especially large industrial users that are paying a lot more in their energy balancing account than they ever have before. And so unfortunately this didn't pass, but we're going to be working on this through the interim. And then HB 362, tax payments with gold. This actually would give a small incentive if you're a gold producer and you're going to pay your state taxes, either your income taxes or your severance taxes, with physical gold that you've produced. And so this was a way both to build the state's gold reserves and to have an incentive for more gold production in the state. So we'll bring that back again next year. So I did want to talk about SB 254, critical minerals amendments or extracted resources amendments. And this was a bill that we worked on with a number of folks in the legislature. And this creates a critical minerals council that will provide some statewide coordination and planning for critical mineral issues here. I mean, we're very much in sort of cat herding mode with critical minerals right now. I mean, it's exciting that everybody wants to be in critical minerals, but there's a lot going on and we need some better coordination. And so this Critical Minerals Council will help to provide that. Again, some accelerated permitting for critical mineral projects, both through DOGM and DEQ. It creates critical mineral zones, which are similar to like the inland port zones, for example, where there'll be certain infrastructure and tax incentives associated with that. Has DOGM and the Utah Geological Survey creating a critical minerals atlas so that we have better data sources on the critical mineral resources that we have. And then also create state goals for critical mineral production. And the thing that I'm probably most excited about is actually sets aside money for what's called the Mine Center, the Minerals for Industrial, National, and Economic Security. And this will be essentially a mineral processing test bed where you can scale up processing operations to the point that you can actually create design criteria so that you can justify an investment in a new processing operation. That's something that we're excited about. It's going to be unique in the country at the scale that we're going to build it here. And we also hope that this will provide a foundation for us to lobby the federal government so we can take the state mine center and actually make it into a national mine center, a national center for critical minerals, and really put Utah in a leadership position on the critical minerals front. So now I'm going to talk about a few updates from the Carbon Emery area. First of all, we're excited that we're finally making some progress on our Utah coal exports. And so a couple of months ago, we actually awarded a contract to do a feasibility study on 3 different ports, the Longview port in Washington, the Oakland terminal in California, and then the Guaymas port in Mexico. And so we'll have this report back from, we have a national group that's doing this feasibility study for us, and we'll have that back in the early summer. And then at that point, we'll go back to the CAB board and ask to have the CAB board award money in the Throughput Infrastructure Fund for one or more of these projects so that we can make sure that we're securing the throughput we need to make sure that our coal and other exports are continuing to have capacity at the port. So we're very excited about that. As many of you know, this is something that's been a long time in coming. I want to especially thank Jade and Jerry for sticking with this, and the other AOGs and the 7 County Infrastructure Coalition for finally moving this project forward, and it's something we're very excited about. A couple of other things, talked about the coal exports. Many of you know that the Kinney No. 2 mine, or the Schofield mine, is still in permitting, and that's something that we're hoping we can keep continuing to move through Dogum and get that mine open again. That would be another great opportunity to increase our coal supply here. Many of you know that the Skyline mine has had a water incursion, and that's something that the operators at Wolverine are dealing with. They've installed a number of pumps to try and take water out of that mine and get back to where they may be able to mine some of it, and at least put together an operations plan moving into the future there. We've had water intrusions and water problems in Skyline for a long time, and we've always been able to find ways to deal with them. And I'm confident that Wolverine will find ways to deal with the issues that Skyline this time. But obviously might take a little bit of time given the level of intrusion that came into the mine. The great news is that all of the employees that aren't continuing to stay at Skyline have been reassigned to other Wolverine mines, and so there hasn't been any loss of employment as a result of Skyline's water intrusion. And so a lot of those have been reassigned to the Fossil Rock mine or to Sufco or to Emery Valley. A little update on Fossil Rock. The longwall is likely going to start up in the middle of May. We've heard a couple different dates for that, but middle of May is when they're expecting to have the longwall operating there, and we're hoping to have a sort of grand opening for the longwall getting turned on, which we're excited about. And then, of course, the Emery Valley mine. This was formerly the Bronco operations in southern Emery County, and this was purchased by Wolverine and reopened. It's now called the Emery Valley mine, and they're mining there, producing coal, and we'll continue to improve the efficiency of those operations as well. So we're very excited that that mine was able to come online, and we have that extra production that's come back to our coal industry. So that's all I have on the mining front. I do want to recognize that just on this last Friday, we actually awarded Representative Watkins, our friend of Utah Mining. This is an award that we give out to only one legislator a year. So we like to say this is one of the more exclusive awards that you can get if you're a legislator. We're very excited to award this to Christine Watkins, Representative Watkins, who's been a longtime supporter of our industry. You also have another former winner there with you in Senator Hinkins. And we're very grateful for the amazing support we get for the mining industry, especially from some of our rural legislators. So that's all I have for you. If you've got any questions or comments, I'd love to take them, and otherwise I'll go back to the beach. Anything?
We got one. Sit tight.
Okay.
Brian, this is Director Mick Thomas with the Division of Oil and Gas and Mining. How are things down there in the beach? That's kind of a flex to say that to a bunch of folks here in Price while you're down there doing whatever you're doing. That's my only comment, really. Thanks, Bart. I appreciate it.
Oh, hey, sorry, Mick, I'm having trouble understanding you. And it's not just your Missouri accent. Could you maybe repeat that? Oh, they're amazing. I'm in Curacao. It's our girls' spring break, and so yeah, we're doing well here. I can't complain about it. It's beautiful weather and a beautiful beach. So But of course, you know, the second best thing would be being there with all of you guys. So. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll let you guys go.
Thank you,
Okay,
Brian.
thank you all. Appreciate your support. Take care.
I don't have a whole bunch to add, but I really want to say thank you guys again. Huge turnout, great people to be here. This was one of the greater meetings that we've had. It's been super powerful, so thank you for being here. The date is a little bit flexing for our next one. It will be in August of this year, just not sure which date, so watch your emails for those invites for the next collaborative here. Also, if you have anybody that needs added to the list, it might be best just to reach out to us and we can add them to the master list. I mean, you can feel free to share it, but it'd be better if we had it on our master list. So anybody else that you know of that could come to this, share that information. As well as, and I know it's on the invite, but please, and we have a lot of speakers, which is a great thing, but if there's more that you guys know of that you think should be speaking at this, either fill it out on that form, speak up, talk to people, and just continue moving forward with it. So we got to have those speakers. Feel free to speak up on them. I want to thank SERDA from the bottom of my heart for the building, for what they've done. You guys, please don't rush out of here. You don't have to leave by no means. We have time to sit and finish your lunch and mingle as needed. Just please pick up a little bit of your garbage if you can when you step out. But again, thanks for being here, and feel free to stick around and hang out and mingle. Thank you.